able to speak freely is the lifeblood of podcasting. Maybe I'm naive.
Sounds like you're getting a Patreon.
Sounds like I'm getting a Patreon?
Just the idea, like, I'm starting a podcast so I can speak freely. I don't want to intimate anything, but I'm going to be speaking pretty freely on this new podcast of mine.
Should we as a marketing strategy try to frame our Patreon?
Pretend that we're like saying really, really nasty stuff on our Patreon.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're definitely pushing boundaries.
Michelangelo is a party dude. Can't come at me, cancel me if you want, but I can say it because I'm behind a paywall.
I subscribe to the Patreon, so I can attest to that.
We're doing Ninja Turtles on Patreon. That will be happening by the time this comes out.
Then.
This is okay. So I'm
getting a little worried about the Turtles Patreon, by the way.
Sameness?
No, just us. I think we're not maybe cowabunga built enough by some of these movies. People got so mad that I rated that awful animated movie poorly on Letterboxd. I was like, you guys aren't 12 anymore. Rewatch it.
That's exactly what I'm going to say. This is also, let's make it clear. This is not where we should be.
No, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And we can cut it out or we can move on.
One of the least essential animated films of the 2000s, TMNT, does not need to be discussed on an episode about an animated masterpiece.
Well, it's the next thing posting on our Patreon, so at least I kind of nailed the timing. It's
relevant,
there.
But I'm saying today we're talking about one of the great animated films of its decade.
I mean, you're right.
For a man who basically made 3 of the best animated films of the decade.
Perfect Blue excluded simply because it was not of its decade.
Yeah.
It was of a prior decade.
Right. But I'm like, all 3 of his 2000 releases, I think, have to go on to any at least top 20 list.
He was a bangers only person, dude.
Here's the take 100%. I'm going to come in with.
Okay.
And there isn't a direct one-to-one here. And our guest, by the way, feel free to. I know you've already interjected.
We'll introduce you.
Yeah, no, I was hoping. I just needed to get a single word before the introduction because too often I hear people waiting.
Don't worry, I'll take 45 minutes until we get to the introduction.
Perfect.
But is Satoshi Kon kind of like the John Cazale
of animated films?
Of filmmakers. I'm just trying to think of someone else who has such a limited body of work that is just straight bangers, all culturally important, all have aged into becoming more important than they even were in their moment. Like, there's just no minor work in his career.
We are about to cover, I would say, his most minor work, and it's still a fairly major work.
That's my favorite of his.
This is my take. If this is the most minor work you have in your career, I bought the 3 books, which I'm going to make my way through. His 3 books that he published. Different medium. I'll follow that as its own thing. We're doing Paranoia Agent on Patreon. But I feel like consensus is everything he ever made where he was the primary artist is good to great. This guy doesn't have anything that's like, well, that was him getting his sea legs, or that one's a minor, right? Like, if this is the worst, I'm not going to say worst. If this is the most minor work you have in relation.
I'm currently making a top animated movies of the 2000s list just to sort of
where you would slot these in?
Yeah, see where I would slot these in.
Your number 1 of the 2000s would be Ponyo?
Possibly. Well, no, Spirited Away.
Oh, you're right. They're both in there.
They're both in there.
Yeah.
But some Satoshi Kon movies would be pretty high.
TMNT, obviously. Have you seen that film?
No.
You're younger than us.
Yes.
So
but
this
maybe
is
too young for
well, that's
that
the thing,
film.
because like there was some movies that you guys have covered that like you had Treasure Planet.
Yes.
And I know that you guys were a bit confounded by it. And that was a movie for me that growing up was huge.
I wouldn't say I was confounded by it. I'd say it's a movie I want to unabashedly love and like a lot.
You were closer in age to Emma, though, who was our guest on that episode and was more planet-pilled.
I love that movie.
And I think you're around the same age as my sister.
I'm 25 right now.
Oh, wow. Yes. So you're basically the exact same age. I took her to see that and she was confounded. But it is interesting. Some of these things that we're just like, TMNT is a movie. Why are we still talking about it? That I would just feel so confident being like, no one feels strongly about that. Because even if you're a Ninja Turtles kid of that era, you would have latched onto one of the other things more than that movie.
Yeah, that was not for me.
Yeah.
Now, would Osmosis Jones make a top 25 of the 2000s animated list?
Me? Yes. Because I'm fucking sick and twisted and out of control.
It's just the planet could have been a treasure box.
Has been
okay. Yeah, I know.
I do get what you're saying.
Planet is a
chest. Should have been like Alien 3, like a wood planet.
Yeah.
That would have been, I do get that.
Very, very good reference to my favorite version of Alien 3 that was never made.
Planet is wood. And you're saying Planet is wood with sort of like gold
With a hatch,
straps around it and a lock. And
Doubloons. Yeah.
One day, enough sickos will run Hollywood that someone will rise to the top of Fox and be like, can we do a Wood Planet movie finally?
I mean, right before we started recording, you were reading the synopsis of Alien Romulus. A lot of the information had just come out. Could you imagine if they announced Alien: Wood Planet?
Alien Wood Planet.
And they were like, this one actually doesn't have any xenomorphs in it. It's just about the local economy of a wood planet.
What happens when it rains? Is it porous?
Yes.
It's a great question. Is this an absorbent wood? Does it, has it been treated in any way?
Look, we've talked.
Have we stained it? Yes.
We've already, in these first couple of minutes, brought back up a lot of movies from the storied history of Blank Check with Griffin and David.
Mm-hmm.
But we're barely acknowledging the movie we're here to talk about today. Satoshi Kon, the filmmaker, in question on this podcast, which is called Blank Check with Griffin and David. I'm Griffin.
I'm David.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers, given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear, sometimes they bounce, baby.
Do you have Monsters, Inc. over Finding Nemo or not?
It's a really tough. That is very much an on the day, like, what side of the bed did I wake up on this morning changes the ranking of those two.
Understood.
I mean, I imagine you put Incredibles and Ratatouille highest of all the Pixars.
You imagine correct.
I'd probably...
I think Finding Nemo over Monsters, Inc.
Today, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's where I had it. So,
but I put WALL-E above those two.
Me too. I do as well.
Yeah.
WALL-E is the highest
non-bird
Pixar to me. Although, there's a Toy Story conversation to be had.
Yeah. We've had it before. We'll have it again. I promise you this. Our listeners, listen, this is a mini series on the films of Satoshi Kon.
Yes.
Someone who made a bunch of crazy passion projects, and I would say all of them cleared.
Pretty much.
And then he died tragically young.
Sadly.
In watching these, it's the reason I throw out this John Cazale question, because it is that thing of like, holy shit, this guy didn't miss, and then he died suddenly. And it's this incredible what if. But on the other hand, you look at it and you're like, perfect career.
Right.
Not that net balance, it would have been better if the man had gotten to live and enjoy life. And yes, it is astonishing. It's one of those things where it's like, also how prolific he was in such a short period of time. Right? That he's like animating and he's like in comics and he's in, film and TV and whatever. Then he finally gets to make his first feature film and he makes 4 feature films within 7 years, 8 years.
It's like 10 years, basically.
It's 97 to like
2006.
Yeah. So it's 9 years when animation often takes 3 years per film at minimum.
And a TV show in there.
Yes. And a full TV show.
Which is,
Like his turnaround time was kind of astonishing in a way that feels like the fucking Hamilton thing. Like he was writing like he knew he was running out of time.
It's a good line.
Today we're talking about his penultimate film.
Yep.
Sucks. Paranoia Agent comes after this, and then Paprika after that, correct?
Yeah, I think this was 03 because
Yes.
And then I think Paranoia Agent 04.
And Paprika's 06. Yep. So that's how it goes.
Today we're talking about Tokyo Godfathers. A loose remake of 3 Godfathers.
Loose, though.
Loose.
Right? I've never seen.
I haven't either.
Me neither.
Ben?
All 3 Godfathers condensed into one?
Mm-hmm.
I've watched all 3 Godfathers playing simultaneously on 3 screens.
Right. The way Coppola always intended.
No, it's a John Ford movie,
Yes.
right?
With John
Starring
Wayne,
Mr.
right?
John Wayne,
Yeah.
who you guys might have heard of. And it has a vague sort of like...
It's like 3 cowboys and a baby, right?
It's 3 cowboys and a baby. It's got this kind of biblical, it's like 3 wise men with Jesus, except we're a bunch of, dopes and we don't know what we're doing. But they're cowboys in 3 Godfathers. And in this, they are, unhoused Tokyo residents. It's very, very loose.
Yes. It's a film inspired by the notion of... Our guest today is a major fan of this film. Someone we've been talking about trying to get on the podcast for a long time. It's been a back and forth conversation. We're trying to book these episodes. I go onto Letterboxd. And your review of this film, let me quote it directly.
Oh, geez.
But I saw it and I was like, well, we should think this might be time.
I'm I understand people love Perfect Blue and Paprika.
Yeah.
But this is the one that for me, It's so perfect. I think it is the sweetest film, and I smile when I watch it. The entire time, I'm just smiling.
Your review is animation is an art form, not a genre. I hope America eventually learns this.
Oh yeah, no, that was a good.
When I was talking to my girlfriend about this movie,
humble brag,
humble brag, very humble brag. She was like surprised because she was like, "Wait, this is an animated film, right?" Because I was telling her the plot, and I was like, "Yes, it's an animated film." And she's like, "So what's the not what's the catch, but like." Oh, this sounds like it could be
why
action. And
would you do this in animation?
Yeah, I was like, that's the beauty of it. It's shot like it's with real people, and like the performances are not exaggerated like a lot of American animation. And it's perfect. And this is one of those movies that makes me think about that.
Even like Millennium Actress, which is more grounded, but features excerpts from genre films that are easier to depict on a scale in animation, but also plays with time and space and memory in these ways where it becomes more impressionistic and animation's a benefit. This is a movie that's like very generally conventionally told, that takes place entirely in a pretty grounded reality.
Yeah, so there are flashbacks and so on, but that's not that unusual for a movie.
No.
It's a little less of the reality being blurred.
And besides like the one wind like lifting up Hannah at the end,
yes,
everything could be shot so practically. Like there would be no need for any VFX, anything like that.
But that's why your review stuck out to me. This feels like the movie of Satoshi Kon trying to make that argument.
Yeah.
Right? Like it feels like sort of the great reason for this film existing is for him to just like point to it and go like, you could tell any story in animation. Let's break out of some of our ways of thinking about what this medium is. Reece Feldman is our guest today on the podcast.
Hello.
Welcome, Reese.
David was getting stressed out thinking I forgot to say it.
I was never getting stressed. How dare you? I've never been stressed in my life. I have Tokyo Godfathers basically among the 10 to 15 best animated films of the 2000s. Okay. Paprika and Millennium Actress also in there.
Do you have it over Tokyo Godfathers?
Do I have what, like those two over?
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Personally.
Personally, yeah.
But I respect all opinions, of course. Especially the ones on our Patreon, which are a little different than normal opinion. No, I'm joking. Yeah. But, you know, I have the two Brad Bird movies up there. I do have Wall-E up there. I have Spirited Away and Ponyo up there. And Howls would make my 15-ish. Okay. I have Coraline up there.
Oh,
a masterpiece.
I have the two Linklater animated films up there, Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly. Those are two films I love a lot. I have, you know, nearer the bottom, but still, these are movies I respect a lot. Emperor's New Groove, Finding Nemo, Lilo, and Monsters, and you know, and then Triplets of Belleville, Chicken Run. There's a lot of good animated movies.
Chicken Run sounds a little low, my friend.
I've got to rewatch Chicken Run.
Yeah, you do.
It's been 24 years since I've seen Chicken Run.
You haven't seen it since? Oh, my friend. You got to go for a run.
It's really good.
Would like it.
You got to go for a run.
Would my kid like it?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe I should try her on like a Wallace and Gromit.
Sure.
See what she thinks of that.
And then maybe take her on a run.
Cat Returns, like I was telling you.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Cat Returns?
I have not.
Bit of an unhinged movie. Like if someone made that movie and showed it to me, I would be like, hey, how you doing? You okay?
It's also a weird thing to spin off. Because we covered Whisper of the Heart.
Yeah.
When we did our Miyazaki series.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, this is the cat who returns?
They spun off the cat she thinks about sometimes.
Right. She's got a little statue. And there's Baron. One dream sequence where the statue comes to life. And they made a whole movie of like, what if he came back and was just doing shit the whole time?
Right. But guess what my daughter saw on the HBO carousel?
Cat.
Bingo.
Nailed it.
I want Cat. And I was like, fine, let's put it on. And then it was like 75 minutes long. And I was like,
I mean, there's cats in this.
There are cats in this. This movie she would not like.
No, I don't think.
No,
this is a firmly not intended for children.
This
movie.
is a grown-up movie.
Without
start
being
with
explicit,
Ice Age and then go to this.
I can't watch Ice Age.
Oh, do you not? Okay,
I mean, I can, but like, it's the thing is like, I'd happily watch Ice Age. The whole thing was showing the movie to my kid. No, it's not. It's just like I'm gonna have to watch Ice Age 25 times. Do I want to do that?
Oh,
is that a lot? Is that too much Ice Age?
My belief is Ice Age 25 times would not be a punishment, even if it weren't a joy. The sequels would
be.
Right, if she sees that there are 6 of them in the carousel.
Yeah, once you get to Meltdown, That's
I've never melted down personally. I mean, I've melted down mentally, but not with the Ice Age Boys.
Reese, I'm tapping a stack of papers here on my desk and consulting my notes. Reese Feldman, they call you the king of TikTok. Is this right?
Jesus Christ.
The kids are calling him the king of TikTok.
What is this, Channel
Throwing
5?
tomatoes
That's
at
what
me.
I'm doing.
Are you gonna ask, do you know where our children are or whatever? Like, what's going on?
No, I'm like, how do I introduce you? And then I was like running through lines in my head and I was like, there is nothing I can say that won't make me sound like a 65-year-old news anchor.
No, it's very odd talking about it. Is there something you're actually quoting?
Back in my day, we went to the movie theaters, but these days kids are learning about movies from TikTok.
There's always
they call him the king of TikTok.
There's always
Reece
those like
Feldman.
YouTube compilations of like news in the 80s, like covering the internet, where they're like, you know,
we're going to like a video game arcade, and it's like this
right. You know, oh, people now are using something called email, like, you know, like that kind of vibe.
Usually we set up traps to catch mice, but what if I were to tell you there's a mice you want to grab with your hand? They call him the king of TikTok. I just miss that type of language. But Reese, you are the king of TikTok.
They do call you.
They do call you the king. I don't. I mean,
is there an actual article that or something that says that, or is this just from you? I
know
really
what?
hope it's not, because I'd be really.
I'm now wondering if I have ever actually read anyone call you that, or if
I'm really
I just
scared
say that
if that's
to
actually
describe
out
you
there.
to other
I'm like,
people. I might be quoting myself saying it earnestly.
No, because it's quite a title one. Thank you if you came up with
this guy, Reece Feldman, he's like the king of TikTok.
I'll say the Hollywood Reporter, did you call you Hollywood's Gen Z whisperer?
Okay.
That's even scarier.
It's a little scary.
Hollywood's Gen Z whisperer. You were a film student.
I actually, common misconception.
Okay.
No.
I knew you dropped out of college, but you weren't.
Oh, no. I graduated too.
Really?
Look at all these lies
I know
you're
nothing.
spreading.
Right. They call me the liar. I have my facts wrong.
Now, if you want more lies, check out our Patreon.
I studied film at school. I did not go to film school.
What school?
I went to Tulane, New Orleans.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were PAing.
Then after I graduated,
Go
May
Green
2020.
Wave.
What's that?
Go Green Wave.
The sports team is the Green Wave.
Yeah, terrible. Yeah, really bad. Graduated really horrendous.
I just like doing that.
Yeah, graduated May 2020 and then started PAing.
You were on Maisel? Was that the first one?
My first big one was The Real Housewives of New Jersey for several months.
Yeah.
Ben?
Really fun show.
Yeah. They're on their state flag now, right?
No front porches, no nothing for them.
Are you ready for my the kind of thing I usually reserve for the Patreon?
Yes.
Real Housewives of New Jersey. Yeah, that's my favorite scripted TV show.
What? How dare you? Come on now. Wow, the flag of New Jersey is like a weird kind of piss yellow.
How dare
you can't deny it. Look at this.
Okay, yeah, it's a little pissy.
A little pissy?
Didn't start out that way.
I'm just saying.
It is, yeah.
This is a weird color to pick for your
left
state.
it at the side of the road.
Yeah, you started making videos as a PA.
On set. Like
on set.
Right. Yeah,
stuff.
fully,
Yes.
I get, what they tell you not to do.
Right. You probably signed legal documents.
Legal
telling you not to do
documents,
that,
yeah,
right.
with repercussions if I were to do that.
And then you've had this insane ascension. I feel like pretty quick, although I know in real time you've been working towards things gradually. It's not like something was handed to you overnight. All of the stuff has been like step by step, but you have become, I'm checking my notes here, Hollywood's Gen Z whisperer.
Yep.
What do they call him, though?
The king?
Yeah, no, when I get on set, that's on the call sheet, is whisperer. And
you've basically, and correct me if you feel I'm defining this wrong, but you have become this guy that now, like, not just like the studios, but like a lot of our top filmmakers are looking to as this guy has the ability to communicate to a new generation the importance of movies to try to make sure that film culture survives.
That is the part of it that I really like.
Yeah.
The non-whispering of it all. But yeah, that has been really cool. And like one thing that I was really nervous about was I was on the Reddit. I know you guys don't check the Reddit.
Oh yeah, no, I've never checked the Reddit
but
six times today.
I was on the Reddit.
This is our narrative now. We never look at it.
I'm not looking.
I saw a video of mine on there and I was like, oh God, like I'm going to get torn to shreds. Like this is, and everyone in it was like really nice being like, I'm not on TikTok, but this is actually a really cool thing. and I like to see like Christopher. I did
Was
the
it you
thing
with
with
Nolan?
Yeah,
Right.
and people were really kind and were like, "Wow, this is actually digestible," and I get what this is supposed to be, which was a very big relief for me.
This is my
People were just rooting for that right then too.
Yes.
They were like, we really need something like Oppenheimer to translate and to do well.
Yes.
It was such a like good moment. It was.
I was talking about this with a friend of the show, Patrick Willems, the other night, and we were both kind of like in hushed tones leaning in. And we're like, is it crazy? I feel like really optimistic about the future of film right now.
Yeah.
In every way, where I was like, I feel good about it as a business, artistically, and the sort of culture around it. And I was like, this is the first time in 20 years I have not felt we are undeniably on a decline.
Like circling the drain.
Yeah, the younger generation's like actually like not letting studios off easy.
In a good way,
in
but
a
also
very
it's
good
like
way.
engaged, like gives a shit.
Yes.
And I'm not on TikTok because I'm 87 years old. I'm a news anchor
Are you on
for a
TikTok?
local station.
Do you lurk or do you...
I lurk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lurk.
I'm trying to like, I don't need more things in my life.
That's fair.
Disney
You don't.
Emoji Blitz
You
already
don't.
takes up
You don't.
18 hours a day. There was a Star Wars event going on.
Of course.
Although you do know Draft Day is very big on TikTok.
God damn it, isn't it?
It is.
Really?
Any like movie like Draft Day is big on TikTok. Like a sort of like nice, reliable movie about people talking to each other.
Devontae Mac? They doing Devontae Mac memes?
No matter what.
You were regularly posting very nice things about the show.
Insane.
We're
Yes.
like, who is this guy with
Sick.
8
Disgusting.
trillion followers? They call him the king of TikTok. They call him the king of TikTok. There was like some
Go
correspondence going on. You meet up with Marie. You get coffee with Marie.
That's right.
You and I get coffee.
Mhm.
You had just met Nolan.
Yeah.
You got Marie and I in to see Oppenheimer early, which is very helpful in terms of getting our episode done.
Yes, that was a really big win for me because when I heard the episode that you guys released on Oppenheimer, I was like, I had like a real like little nod to myself. Where I was
You
like,
know who was a big win for? Us seeing
Yeah.
Oppenheimer.
yeah, and it was like the IMAX before like
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
Huge win.
because
But-
that was sold out for cheap.
Yes. But you had just done your video with him where was it the AMC Lincoln Square?
No,
No.
It was at the Studio City, like Universal City Walk.
Yes.
I was there at 10 a.m. when they told me to get there. It was
Yeah.
very like secret and like he just walks in, like people are just cleaning as he's walking by and he's like, "Oh, hello." And I'm like, Mr. Nolan. And he's like,
I was about to ask, what do you call him? Mr. Nolan. Or were you
You
eventually
led
Chris?
with Mr. Nolan.
I lead with Mr. Nolan just
Yeah.
because
Yeah, of course. You're polite.
he's my older.
Yeah,
And
of course.
yeah, there's
It's
like
true.
But
yeah.
did he say, like, oh, please, call me Big C?
Call me Sea Dog.
So call me Big C. And by the way, I hear they call you the king of
the
TikTok.
king of TikTok. Yeah.
The ting
The
of
ting of-
TikTok.
No, what did you
I did.
You
I
just
call him
called
Mr. Nolan,
right.
and he is very nice, and so is Emma Thomas, they're just really cool.
She's a G.
Yeah, she's
Couple
awesome.
calls. Yeah.
Yeah, and just really cool. We did it at Universal City Walk. He's very, very chill. Not at all, but and like this is what we were talking off mic. Is
Yes.
that he's this like I feel like he always wears suits, so people view him in one way, but he's a really sweet guy that loves all movies, not just what people assume he would
Also,
like.
I hope I'm not betraying anything by saying this, but the way you recounted to me when you had just done this interview with him, you had seen the movie. I had not seen the movie yet. It was right when it was about to come out. And I was like, what was that like? Because here's this guy who famously doesn't like have a smartphone, doesn't check his email, like all this shit, right? And you're like, is this going to be like, oh, you have to talk to someone for TikTok. You have to do social media videos. Like, is this going to be inscrutable to this guy? And you said that he was like excited.
He was one of those like scenarios, and it's like him. There was there's a few other people, and
Yeah.
like just for the sake of this to help, if anyone who's listening doesn't have TikTok or anything, understand it's just like him, Luca Guadagnino, James Cameron. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people of like an older ilk of filmmaking who are so interested by TikTok just by the
It's
sake
like a
of
medium
yeah,
and
he's
a
like,
communication tool.
I understand
Sure.
film. I don't understand this, but I am told that you do understand this, and I've seen and I understand that you get it, so I can trust you in that sense.
But also, that specific video you did with him was you went to the projection booth for the IMAX screen at the City Walk Theater, and he like took apart, showed you the film. Like it was very much about like this physical medium, this machinery. And you said that he was like, it's important that I show this to your audience so that people understand like why I am putting an importance on this as the form to see the movie, which obviously fucking worked. It worked.
Yeah, no, which
Like,
was Which
the
was the
idea was
best
communicated.
thing. Mhm.
Fucking Oppenheimer and IMAX became the hottest ticket in the world for months. But it was very cool to see.
Yeah, it's really cool. And for him, it's just another useful tool to explain to people. And like, yes, there's the irony of it being shot vertically and on like the smallest screen imaginable.
Yeah.
But it is just a means to an end, which is for him to like get the youth to like IMAX and to like the big screen experience.
Well, now I'm wondering.
Has anyone ever used a smartphone in a Nolan film? No.
That's a really good question.
I don't think
Does
so.
Tenet have zero smartphones?
Tenet?
That's the one that maybe would.
Tenet. I don't know, though.
Because I feel like the Dark
all
Knight trilogy,
spies.
they're using flip phones.
Yeah, there's some cell phones in it. Right?
Tenet,
But
I imagine, because like there's just like the scenes of him like in the car
Yeah.
calling DeBecchi up. Like,
Is it on a smartphone?
That's the
That's
question.
the question. We don't know. And we'll never know. Those films are not viewable. No, I don't know. I'll
Don't
check
exist.
later.
But this is a favorite movie of yours.
yes.
We've been looking for a while for the right thing to get you on for. And when I saw that you felt so strongly about it, and once again, not that this is a minor film, but his other three films loom so large, this one tends to get a little forgotten.
This is the one that is overlooked.
Yeah, it's his most overlooked film.
And we talked about in the last episode, but this insane thing where Millennium Actress came out a couple years later in the States, but Tokyo Godfathers basically came out right at the same time it came out in Japan, which meant that these two movies came out within a month of each other in the States. They were like competing with each other in a bizarre way. And they both end up getting snubbed for the Oscar because they had to compete against each other, and the category was a little weird still at that point in time.
Yeah, they had to make room for Surf's Up or no, wait, what was it?
What that year it was Brother Bear,
Brother Bear, that's the one. The other two are bigger movies. It was
Nemo, Brother Bear.
Nemo, that makes sense.
You're right.
Belleville.
And Belleville, yes.
Which was kind of like back when they only had three. Like there'd be one slot for like an art or Euro animated film. Yeah.
Look, we were talking about this last week. That even did kick in a little later because the first year, 2001, they were like, well, the three nominees are obviously going to be Shrek, Monsters, Inc., The Two Big Dogs of 2001, and Waking Life. Everyone was like,
Waking
they'll
Life,
put in the arty one. And then Jimmy Neutron got Waking Life slot.
Yeah, well, you know how he did that?
How? A big old noggin.
It's boy genius.
I think when Spirited Away won the second year, it was like, okay, so this isn't just going to be an American category.
Right.
Belleville getting in, the G Kids ascension of, here are movies you maybe haven't heard of until the nominations come out.
That's much more recent.
That
right.
starts, yeah.
You're right.
08, 09.
Yeah, it's in 2007, you have Persepolis, which we mentioned on a different episode. And
Hal gets in.
like 2009.
Ponyo doesn't.
Yes. Well, the Ponyo snub is rude. But in 2009, when they expand to 5, which then they sort of basically stay at 5, there's enough
That's when
animated
G-Kids
movies.
strike. When Secret of Kells got in, that felt like big deal.
Secret of Kells. Yes. You got your Chico and Rita.
Oh.
Your
Ernest and
Celestines. Your Songs of the Sea.
Yeah.
Your Tales of Kaguya.
Anyway. One of the greats. What is your, we're talking about you being a generation or so younger than us. What is your like relationship to animation growing up?
For me, it was very much like a lot of the, like we were just saying Treasure Planet. Like that was one of the big ones for me. Like my sister, who's a few years older, all the Disney princess films. So like the ones that I especially liked were Hercules.
Okay.
Hercules was a huge one for me. But it was mostly the American animated films. So it was very much, I was like raised with the idea that animated films are for kids. And that's that. But yeah, it was pretty much
What's the
only
first one
what
you saw in a theater.
My first movie I saw in a theater?
Like, sure. But especially like an animated movie. Like, did you see Brother Bear in a theater?
Yes.
Wow.
I saw Brother Bear.
One
I definitely saw Finding Nemo. I feel like
you saw Finding Nemo. That's a 3. You wouldn't have seen Shrek or Monsters, Inc.
I probably was too young at that point.
Yeah, you were too young. If you're 25
See,
now.
we were dragging Romilly. Romilly was seeing like fucking movies 2 months after she came out.
I mean, you can take a baby to a theater.
Yeah, we
They're not
did.
gonna
Trust
really
me.
watch.
Yeah.
What about Chicken Little?
Chicken Little, yes, which I rewatched a couple years ago and is near unwatchable.
I was going to.
It is a really. I loved that movie as a kid, and it.
This is the thing. We fall into this where we're like, we know the opinions of people, the consensus on these movies and which ones matter. And then now we're becoming old fuddy-duddies who call people the king of TikTok. And we throw fucking
You're the one doing
swipes.
that.
We take strays at fucking movies like Chicken Little where we're like, obviously no one gives a shit about this. And then we get essays that are people saying, I do find it reassuring to hear someone who saw Chicken Little at the right age agree that perhaps that movie is,
Flawed.
dare I say it, undercooked.
Yes, very much so. I loved it as a kid.
Them
Rewatched
eggs need bacon.
Yeah, me and my friends were all like, "Oh, this was so fun as a kid," and then we were about. I don't even know if it's an hour and a half. I don't even know if it hits 90 minutes.
Chicken Little?
Yeah,
Let's find out.
It's like a sloppy ass 82 minutes with credits.
Yeah, that one is 81 minutes.
I think
with credits.
we made it 70 minutes and turned it off.
Yeah.
like we didn't
super
stay. We
It's
could not.
aliens?
Yeah, that is the hook to that movie is Chicken Little says the sky is falling. Everyone says Chicken Little, you always lie. And it turns out the reason the sky is falling is because the sky is constructed of holographic
Hexagonal,
tiles that project the image of the sky, but are actually the bottom of a spaceship.
Yes,
Cool.
but yes, that was what I grew up watching.
Sure. When did you feel like you had that realization about animation as a medium, not a genre?
I guess probably high school, when I started watching things that were not just made in America.
Sure.
And then animation slowly followed suit after that.
Are you an anime boy in general?
I do like animation a lot.
No.
Anime.
Anime.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
That I'm not. That
it's
is
not
one of
like you're watching tons and tons of that. Sure.
No,
Right.
that is one of the art forms I have yet to get into. And I've tried, like, people have told me, like, oh, start with Death Note or Attack on Titan. And it's just not, it just has not
feels
stuck
very
for
daunting
me.
to me too. I'm
And also
just
they're like, once you get past like episode 580, and I'm like,
right.
Like, I can't do that.
Right. One Piece is like the longest running show in history.
Mhm.
One Piece seems pretty fun for you, though. It's pretty griffy.
I agree, but then I'm like, where do I start? And they're like, look, you're going to have to like work your way through the first 8 seasons. And then like 9 to 27 are incredible.
Yeah, which is why it's been tough for me to find my in.
I still haven't finished this fucking Simpsons.
Griffin, you don't need to finish
No,
The Simpsons.
I have to do it.
How much do you have left?
Like 9 years.
I cannot.
I've less than 9 years.
I cannot wait to watch The Simpsons with my kid. That's something I'm really thinking about now. It's still a few years off.
And just wait until you get to season 34. It's the funniest it's ever been.
Okay. How'd you get into movies? You just always like movies.
Yeah, it's
You're
not
like
it's
us.
not a very exciting. Yeah, I always liked movies. That was I feel like for so many, it was just always my thing. And then I just knew I wanted to work in it to some capacity. And I didn't realize until I was like in high school that I did not just have to be a director or an actor.
Sure. There are many jobs.
That there are many jobs.
Yes.
And yeah. So that was pretty much it.
Do you remember when you saw Tokyo Godfathers for the first time?
What's
It
your
was-
cone story?
Fairly recently.
Okay.
I think it was around like a couple years ago when people started making like the comparisons between Paprika
Yes.
and Inception. And
Okay.
like,
They're always doing that.
They
Yeah,
love
which is
people be doing that.
people, yeah. And the same
Yeah.
thing with like Black Swan,
Mm-hmm.
where I was like,
That one's a little more fair.
Yeah.
yeah. Where I was like, regardless of my thoughts on that, I was just
Sure.
like, this is interesting
Right.
just for the sake of like wanting to watch. And then 2 years ago, it was Christmas time and I wanted to
Yeah.
watch some non-Christmas movies
Okay.
or like Christmas adjacent
So
films.
just sorry, did you watch those 2 movies in response or did it just put them on your radar?
Put them on my radar.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, it's in my head. And then finally I was like, okay, I want to get through some like adjacent Christmas movies like Black Christmas, do all those.
Off the beaten path.
Yes. And then Tokyo Godfathers came up and I was like, oh, it's the same guy that did this. Watched
So
it.
this was the first one of his you saw.
Yes.
Interesting.
And
yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why you fell in love with this one in particular as well. It was your way in.
Yeah, but even watching the like Paprika
Mm-hmm.
Perfect Blue and then watching this again, it's the one for me that I just cling to.
I think that's good. I
Even
think it's good and smart.
I embarrassingly had not seen this. This was my blind spot in his
My blind spot
filmography.
too. Yeah.
Despite being a dumb animation nerd, as David has so kindly
Well, yeah,
put
but
it.
you
in the
are less
past.
of a Japanese animation.
I was,
Yeah.
but you talking about describing it to your girlfriend and having her be like, "Wait, it's animated? I thought you were saying this is animated." I remember reading the New York Times review of this movie when it came out, like a pretentious little film dork, and going like, "Wait, did I misread this?"
This is a cartoon.
Right.
Like
Nothing
this
else they're
doesn't sound
saying
like one.
sounds like it's
Right.
describing a cartoon. It kind of interested me. I remember playing at the Sunshine. I meant to go see it. I never did. And then it's just hung out there for a while. I get into Satoshi Kon later. I love his movies. And I just never had gotten around to this one. But this does feel like I have seen few animated movies ever like this.
Okay, I agree.
In terms of just being such a sort of like small, focused human story. And I think there are things even like Only Yesterday, you know, or like, right, like
You've
Fireflies
seen
of
Only
the
Yesterday?
Grave.
Grave
Which
of
one?
the Fireflies, my friend.
I'm sorry.
Have you seen Only Yesterday?
No.
Check it out, my friend. It's the best. The best animated movie. Takahata film.
But even those films that are more grounded and emotionally mature, you're like, they're stories with children. They're sort of like memory plays in a certain way. They're using animation to evoke a sort of like wistful sadness, you know?
Mhm.
For this to be a movie that's like largely about sad adults in tough circumstances.
In a city, like
Yeah.
in relatively mundane locations. I mean, obviously there's excitement in this
Yeah, there's
movie.
beauty, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a lot of browns and grays.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah.
Like, you know, wrinkly little faces.
Yeah.
There's a reason for this to be an animated movie. I'm not saying like neither of us are
I
saying that
love
it's
that it
weird
is.
that
Yes.
it is one. But you're right that usually, you know, someone would try to do something more fanciful if
But
they're
that's
working in that
why
medium.
it is such a good animation as a medium argument movie where it's like, why is this movie animated? Because Satoshi Kon had a sense of how he wanted to animate it. He was not doing the math of this is the kind of story you could only tell in animation, which is the kind of trap of how many people get caught thinking about animation.
I'm opening the dossier.
Do it.
You like that?
Yeah, blow the dust off.
Tokyo Godfathers. Listen, Satoshi Kon made Perfect Blue.
Mhm.
He made Millennium Actress.
Perfect Blue, more like Perfect Movie.
Okay.
Millennium Actress, more like Millennium Masterpiece.
What are you going to do now? Huh? You big jerk? That's what his producer said to him. He
You
didn't-
yelled at him.
What's the matter with you?
What are you going to do? Make another movie?
I
you
dare
fucking
ya.
idiot.
Satoshi Kon says, these are two movies, Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress. Their dreams and reality are being blended. And if you make things the same way you always had, things can get redundant. So I decided to make a different kind of story. He wanted to make something simpler. He wanted to make something that's more character focused, more about digging into characters.
He had wanted to make Paprika earlier. It makes sense for him not to choose to go straight into Paprika now when, as you just put it, if he made that, it's like, oh, we get who this guy is.
Yeah, it's the
Here's
fantasy
his
reality
thing.
guy. Right, exactly. So Millennium Actress, obviously, that's inspired by like Japanese cinema and the history of Japan and things like that. This film is inspired by Satoshi Kon walking around. He says, when I walk down the street, I see homeless people and I start to wonder why they don't show up in movies. It seemed like an obvious topic. I think I don't know much about like Japanese socioeconomics.
Mhm.
I'm going to reveal myself as not a huge expert on
This
like,
is you speaking personally, David Sims.
obviously I know Japan is in the middle of like a famous recession
Sure.
at this, in sort of late 90s, early 2000s. But like, I think homelessness was becoming more prevalent at the time
Okay.
after maybe like that not being a huge societal issue for a while. Like I think maybe there was a film he wanted to, so his initial idea for a movie was called Tokyo Ghost.
Okay.
And it was going to be about interactions between a homeless person and a spirit. But then he decides to instead be inspired by Three Godfathers, the John Ford film from 1948, where three distinct homeless characters stumble upon an abandoned child.
That movie, I believe, was also a remake. The Ford one is the second version of that story.
Actually?
I believe so. I
Well,
know.
I know it's based on a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Warner Archive just announced that they're finally putting the Ford movie out on Blu-ray, and I believe it's like a double feature disc with another version of the same
It
story.
had been adapted
Okay.
in 1919
Cool.
as
Early.
a silent film
Yeah.
by this hack shithead director called John Ford. He had already done it once.
Wow.
Back then, guys like that would be like, yeah, I did it as a silent picture. Now I do it as a talkie picture.
Yeah.
And then imagine if someone had said to John Ford, one day a Japanese animator will make a film.
But this is what I'm
inspired
saying.
by
It was
this.
already a story that had been like told a
Yes.
couple times.
Right.
Yes.
Now, Gunn says, like, obviously I am inspired by that movie. I took the title from that film, but it's pretty loose, obviously. And I was, much more moved by the increase in like unhoused people in Tokyo. And I want to focus on them as the main character. Like in Three Godfathers, they're just like cowboys breathing through town, breezing, right?
He's sort of riffing on like the three great dramatic archetypes in this movie. The Gutenberg, the Danson,
Go on.
and the Selick.
There you go.
Took me a second.
Is Selick kind of the alpha in
Yeah.
3 Men and a Baby? I have seen those movies. Are you a 3 Men and a Baby guy?
Am I? No. I mean, I've
I don't
seen
know.
it.
You like
I've seen
comedies
it.
from the
Yeah,
80s.
interesting. No, it's an interesting question. It is an interesting question.
You're not a Gootster, really. Gutenberg's never been for you.
You don't really go for the Gooderl
No, I guess not.
because you're not even a police academy guy.
Yeah. I
Are
mean,
you not?
I like the guy who makes the sound effects.
We
Of
all
course.
like him. They call him the king of sound effects.
To be clear, we like his solo work.
Yeah.
I watch the Police Academy movies. I go, what's this other nonsense going on around him? Put this guy up on stage.
What's this? The Simpsons line. Why do you think I took you to all those Police Academy movies? I didn't see anybody laughing. Yelling apart. It's
But
great.
yeah, that movie is not like one that looms large for me.
David, you already mentioning how you can't wait until your daughter is old enough to watch The Simpsons. I'm just imagining in a couple of years you getting to like season 5 and then her going, what does that mean? You going, 40 years ago.
Police Academy.
There were
Okay, here
9
we go.
movies.
It's true. But I feel
The
like
show's been going on for so long.
I watched
The
The
reference
Simpsons.
points are nonsense now.
I watched The Simpsons
Yes.
at, these same episodes,
Yeah.
right? And I probably didn't understand half the references,
Sure.
right? Like it was that thing when you're a kid where you're like, well, I'll just let that one sail by, whatever that joke was, right?
Yeah, but that's also when I watched I Love Lucy, I felt that way. And I was like, well, this was made in the times of black and white. I understand. I won't understand all these things they're talking about. It's weird to consider your daughter will watch it and it will still be a present, currently running show, making topical
They have
references to
wrap it
things
up
like
soon,
that.
don't they?
I mean,
Isn't like Harry Shearer being operated like, like a bellows,
marionette.
like at this point? Yeah, Mary. They're just kind of getting like squeezing his chest, and he's like, "Hey, Mr. Burns," like he's.
Simpson.
I like this quote from Satoshi Kon. The
Okay.
important thing wasn't just to present the homeless problem in the script, but to focus on the mindset surrounding things we discard. These are people who have been discarded from society. And I wanted to examine how someone separated from mainstream society could once again rejuvenate society. And obviously, one of these 3 characters is kind of your classic bum. Jin is,
A drunk.
he's a drunk. He's an older guy. He's clearly regretful
Unshaven,
over like
grouchy, wrinkly. Yeah.
right about, and then you have the runaway girl, and then you have Miyuki,
A trans woman.
Yes,
Yeah.
like Miyuki's the runaway girl. It's a Hana is
Hana,
the,
yeah.
yes is the drag performer essentially.
But you have,
a trans woman.
have this interesting little trifecta of a man who abandoned his wife and daughter out of shame.
Yes.
You have a trans woman who is very much burdened with the feeling of not being seen by society the way that she sees herself.
Yeah, wants to be a mother.
Her own identity, and wants to be a mother, the thing she
All
knows
these maternal
biologically she
instincts, yeah.
cannot have. And then a young girl who ran away from home because of a feeling of betrayal from her father. So you have these 3 people who all have complicated relationships with the idea of parenting and childhood.
Satoshi Kon apparently came to New York City and was also like, there's a lot of homeless people here too. He's just, for whatever reason, this is really, on his mind. Sure. Now, the Christmas thing, right? In Japan, Kon says, like the last week of December, the beginning of January, it's a cross culture of religions. We've got Christmas. On December 31st, Japanese people will listen to end of the year gongs. That's sort of Buddhism. January 1st is a Shinto holiday. I wanted to express the cross religious culture in my movie and how Japanese people look at this. This is a Christmas movie. It's a very good Christmas movie.
Yep,
it's got all the themes of a great Christmas movie, which is like people hanging on and like being thrown together and makeshift family and like stuff like that I love in Christmas movies.
Yes.
I mean, like, my favorite kind of Christmas movie. No, I'll save it for the Patreon. It's an action film starring Bruce Willis. Like, I don't want to reveal anything more. Like,
Look,
that's the kind of stuff you got to pay for.
you want to hear some hard truths? Pony at $5 a month. Logan's a Western. That's a little. That's just a very quick free sample of the kind
You
of
have to
shit
say it
you'll
really.
hear.
Logan's Western.
Logan's a Western.
Okay, so he co-wrote this screenplay with a new collaborator, Keiko Nobumoto, a drinking friend, he said. Had worked on Cowboy Bebop, which is obviously a beloved series. And her character-centric perspective would be integral, he thought, for more character-focused storytelling. Then he basically was like, we're going to design these characters first with a shape. So Jin, the classic bum, I keep calling him a classic bum.
The drunkard.
The drunkard.
An alcoholic man.
Is a triangle.
Yes.
Miyuki, the little girl, is a circle. and Hana is a square. Like he was like, I want three different face shapes.
The classic like silhouette sort of philosophy in animation that you want characters who are so easily defined physically that they read in silhouette from any angle as indistinguishable from each other or distinguishable from each other.
Apparently, at the time of the film's release, Kohn is referring to Hana, quote unquote, as a drag queen, not so much as a trans woman. This is a 20-year-old movie. It seems like it's interesting because he's obviously like, I want to represent a community I don't understand very well, right?
Yes.
But, you know, some of these like quotes are
a little dated.
Yeah, but like not in a bad way or anything. Just in a sort of like, we don't talk about this in the same way anymore.
G-Kids remastered this and did a new American dub of it.
With a trans actress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really? It is Shakina Nafak. So I was like flipping back and forth between the two when I was watching because for the Japanese dub, you have a Japanese man voicing Hana in like a deep manly register. It feels like that was sort of the notion of the time. It definitely plays a lot differently when the role is being played by a trans woman.
Yeah, I listened to the dub for this exact reason.
Yeah.
This is a quote from Nafak. It was a fairy tale thing going from nothing to landing this role. Freedom comes from living up to the largesse of this animated character. It's got so much heart and charisma. I really got to explode behind the microphone in a way you don't get to do on camera. Miyuki, the little girl, she's a 16-year-old or whatever, right? Like she's the runaway girl. He's saying like, you know, she's this kind of like idolized character to him, like this sort of fantasy of running away from home, how it would go wrong.
Well, you have these three people who represent these kind of archetypes of the types of people and the circumstances that lead to people ending up in the margins of society, right? The people, I mean, this feels like the whole movie stems out of like these people we walk past and do not really consider what their lives are, how they got here, who they are.
Just their problems to us.
Yeah, no, and I really like how the movie does a very good job of like even not even like characters, but the tiny, I guess, looks they get, or when they're in the like the convenience store and the guy is just kind of covering his nose, kind of like shuffling away, where it's just
seeing the convenience store where like the dead drunk guy is like embarrassing himself in public. He's like a mess and he's slurring his words and like tripping over himself to mock the three of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Or it's like even on the subway or the metro, wherever it is there.
But like this guy's a drunk as well. The difference is that he's wearing a suit. And in theory, he has a job and a home to go back to. And he feels like that gives him the capital to be able to look down on them. I mean, this is my dumb Griffin metatextual take. And it doesn't seem like there's anything in the dossier that supports this was a strategic thought on Satoshi Kon's part. But it does feel like this movie is him sort of trying to apply the same level of thinking to animation as an art form. Of like, here's this thing that people kind of walk past and like file away in a very convenient place in their mind. And in the same way, this movie is like stopping and making you spend time with these characters and really invest in them as people, characters who usually are like just punchlines in other films. He's like, I'm going to like hold you and make you think about different things that animation can do and not let you file this away into just a box for like kid stuff.
Tokyo Godfathers, also produced by Madhouse, much like the last two movies. But here's the interesting quote from Madhouse president Masao Maruyama. We're going to let him keep doing what he wants, and I think audiences will come to him.
Cool.
Now,
so cool.
Is he getting a blank check? No, he's getting a fairly small budget, about $3 million this time, 300 million yen.
Right.
But it's about double the budget he got for the last movie.
Tokyo Godfather, I'm sorry, Millennium Actress cost less than $1 million.
Yes, so it's definitely them being like, we're going to give you more room. And yes, maybe your movies are not blockbusters yet, but we think.
Safe bet. Reliable bet.
Artistic
you got your thing. We're thinking long term. Yeah.
Encouraging. So let's talk about Tokyo Godfathers. They call them the Godfathers of Tokyo.
They're calling them Gokyo Toddfathers.
We've already introduced our three characters, and we meet them.
It drops you right into it. They're
rummaging like, through like
the food line.
Yeah, the food line.
Yes.
They're looking for presents, basically, right? They're kind of like rummaging through the garbage is when they find the baby.
Yeah. I just love this movie doesn't really like give you traditional character setups. Like you kind of just start mid-action.
And you know exactly who everyone is just from the first few lines they all have.
Yeah. You're just like, you get what the types are. The movie, of course, is going to like hold you to it and force you to dig deeper into who they are. But you get the easy kind of handles on all three of them. They find the baby within like 3 minutes, right? And I don't read this film as presenting it as like, well, these three are a trio who do everything together all the time. It's this sort of notion of like, like at homeless centers or at soup kitchens or whatever, people like run into each other and they split up and they find each other again. You cross paths with certain people over and over again.
Yeah, and like they have like associations with each other. Like Mayuki runs into two other people who are like, oh, you're Jin's girl. Like, we can't mess with you.
We're not watching them meet for the first time, but I also don't think they are functioning as like an unconventional family unit at this point. I think this discovery brings them all together. That was the thing I almost did for the opening instead, because we talked about how
I thought you were going to do one of the haikus.
I know which one do you have one in mind? You thought I was going to do
snow falling one. Because I thought like that was the most beautiful thing, and you having to stick podcast in there would be really fun. Like the most beautiful, eloquent delivery.
You're disrupting.
And
this
you're just
lovely-
like,
pick the best thing and make it as bad as possible. No, he was critical of the Millennium Actress poster, where he felt like it misrepresented the movie.
Yes.
The Tokyo Godfathers poster, like very straightforward. It's the three of them. It's a nice,
there you go.
beautiful character designs. But the tagline on it is, meet the ultimate dysfunctional family.
They call them the ultimate dysfunctional
Basically.
family.
And I'm like, the font on the tagline is so small that otherwise the poster just looks classy. But it's like,
But the Japanese poster is very cool.
The
Oh, that
Japanese poster
Where
rocks.
the skyscrapers are all askew and they're like atop them. It's very interesting.
which
That's
is
the one I
basically,
prefer.
like sort of the end credit
The other,
sequence of the movie.
the other one, the American one looks like a DVD cover.
Yes.
Not so much a poster.
Right. But they're rummaging through the trash. They find this baby.
Yeah.
With a note and a key.
Yeah.
And then you go to opening credit sequence. Like that's the cold open of the movie. What are they going to do with this baby? They now are ostensibly responsible.
I mean, they could, I suppose, just like drop the baby off, but they want to go find the parents.
They
right?
want to find the parents, and
Yeah.
all three of them want to make sure this baby is taken care of in the meantime.
I love Hana and how she's concerned of this child's experience
Of Christmas.
of Christmas.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
that's
like-
such a nice,
She won't return.
whimsical way of justifying it.
And also, like Mayuki and Jin don't want, like, they want to return the baby immediately and kind of like take a step back when she's like, they're going to ruin, like, this will ruin Christmas for
Right.
this child forever. And they're like, fuck. She's like, she kind of has a point.
She feels this almost cosmic thing of like, Christmas is important. And if you have your first bad Christmas, you never recover from that, even if you're too young to remember it. And the movie starts with like Christmas caroling, right? Like the movie starts with Silent Night being sung and the three of them, watching in the park.
Right. The name is obviously right. Yeah. I mean,
and the other two seem a little indifferent. Hana's like holding like her hand, like she's like wrapped with attention. This means a lot to her.
Mhm.
At the same time that Jin's nodding off.
look, this movie's brilliant.
Yeah, it rules.
The whole thing is you don't need to know why they all separately kind of have the emotion of like, no, we have to do right by this baby. You're going to learn the three sort of different reasons and their backstories.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn more about them, how they're all motivated to sort of do something right and like to, you know, sort of fix mistakes they felt like they've made and
But
all
it's a
that.
perfect setup because you're like,
But
well,
we're going to learn it later.
What a funny trio to be taking care of this baby.
Right.
What an odd combination. But immediately the fact that all three of them step up and are like, we got to get this done makes you like them.
Obviously, an odder combination would be like three men.
Yes.
And a baby.
I mean, what you're describing right now sounds like the ultimate dysfunctional family.
And then, of course, one day there might be a little lady on their hands.
Sure. Or even just a ghost hanging out behind the
window,
yeah,
curtains, wherever it is. You know how three when a baby.
When watching it, that was the thing that surprised me most was that there hasn't been a really shitty live action American remake.
Of Tokyo Godfathers?
Yes.
I said the same thing about Millennium Actress.
Yeah.
It's Paprika and Perfect Blue, you understand why perhaps
They would be a
filmmakers
little
took
hands
elements
off.
from them rather than remaking them. These two feel like ready-made.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, honestly, if someone tomorrow announced that, I would kind of be like, great idea, bro. Like if a good filmmaker tomorrow was like, I'm going to do like kind of a Tokyo Godfathers thing. Chicago Godfathers, right?
Yeah. And you were like, Nick Nolte, Laverne Cox, and Jenna Ortega are set.
Fuck. Wait a second.
Oh?
Shit,
It's actually not, wait.
That sounds good.
Ding, ding, ding. 3 cherries in a row?
God, Nolte is Jin? That would be great.
That's why I'm a Tokyo Godfather. I play the horses. I got a baby, damn it.
Is he being crushed by a car?
Oh, there is someone crushed by a car in it.
Yeah, rescue the Yakuza boss from under a car.
Yeah, but he has to go on a bicycle at some point in the film.
I'm on a bicycle built for two, but I'm only one.
Nick Nolte right now riding a bicycle might be the premise of a movie enough for, like that's all
If
I
they
need.
could get Nick Nolte to ride a bicycle, it'd be more impressive as a special effect than like Kermit riding a
that's what I'm saying.
bicycle.
Like they're
You're
like,
like, how did they get him to stay upright?
hey, what do you, I'm at cinema. What do you have planned for the summer? And Sony's like, Nick Nolte? I'm like, sure. Yeah. Well, he's going to ride a bicycle. I'm like, I don't even say anything else. I don't even want to know the title.
I got little streamers coming under the handles. Listen to my little bicycle bell.
It's fixed wheel.
Ring, 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 ding, ding,
Fixed
ding.
gear. Fuck.
I keep the training wheels on because I don't want to topple over.
You know how when you have training wheels, you're not really, you just kind of doot, you're like leading left and right. Yeah, Ben knows.
Look at me. I got a little red wagon.
The radio flyer?
I put all my stuffed animals on it.
This is my pitch. Nick Nolte plays a little kid.
But like from like Victorian times, or he's like a little cap with a spinner on it?
Yeah, here's my pitch. Sony, hear me out.
Listen up, Sony.
Nick Nolte is Little Lord Fauntleroy.
Yes.
It's too long since we've had Little Lord Fauntleroy up on the big screen.
It is too long.
Someone hand me a lolly. I want to skip down the street with my little ringlets.
Is Little Lord Fauntleroy
The greatest character ever created? Yeah.
Sure. Are we rooting for him? I know that he became the, like, people refer to like a spoiled kid. But like when you watch Little Lord Fauntleroy, are you on his side?
This is why he's a journalist. Asking the hard question.
Ben is pointing at David so intently.
He was. Ben was like looking at me like he was about to say like, and that, and then he did. They call him the Little Lord Fauntleroy.
They call him Fiddle Lord Fauntleroy. I think we love to hate him. I think that was the audience's relationship. I think Little Lord Fauntleroy was the Wolf of Wall Street of his time.
Oh, that he like looks at the camera. He's like, was any of this legal? Fuck no.
Could you imagine what fucking Adam McKay could do with Little Lord Fauntleroy?
Jesus Christ. Honestly, Wikipedia
now was I
too
only
long.
supposed to take one lolly? Sure. But I didn't stop there.
Tokyo Godfathers. So they find this kid. Very quickly, we're into the Yakuza boss trapped under a car, right?
Yes.
Like that's the first thing they're dealing with.
Right. But they're trying to track down. Yeah. The letter, basically they have the name of the mother. They have a photo of the couple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and a club.
And the name of
The
a club.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Then they run into the Yakuza boss who's trapped under a car.
Very funny.
Yes.
His daughter is getting married, correct?
Also named Kyoko.
Yes, that's right.
Right. The names keep repeating in this.
It's sort of a kind of the Godfather situation in that a mobster's daughter is getting married.
Yeah.
And, supposedly,
I've heard
you
Tokyo
ask him for a
Godfathers,
favor.
but the Godfather in Tokyo. His daughter, perchance, is getting married to the son of the owner of the club. The very club that's written on the note, correct?
And the man
or
that
the owner.
Jin owes money to.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And basically, it's here that they find out that the baby's mother is a bar girl.
Yes.
Sachiko.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's the next clue. And then a bunch of shit happens. A guy shows an assassin shows up with a
Spanish
gun.
assassin
Yes,
shows
a
up,
Spanish assassin.
dressed as a waiter.
Right.
And shoots at both the man under the car and the owner of the club.
Yeah.
Correct?
Who does he kill?
He doesn't kill anyone. The owner of the club jumps in front of
the
dad.
The mobster.
Yeah, the
right.
mobster takes the 3 bullets.
Right.
Yes.
But we find out
bullets.
throughout the movie, like they just keep giving us updates that he's still alive.
That's another running theme of the movie is people assume the worst thing has happened.
And it's like, oh, no.
Run away from the problem and only find out later. If you had stayed,
You would see that, this was
things resolve themselves.
Mhm.
Right.
But there's a lot of people just running away from, even like jumping ahead, but when you get to Hannah at the club and they were like,
oh, it was fine. We just paid the guy off.
right.
Yeah, same
like
with,
she
she
ran
ran
away, her relationship, she loses her partner, she falls into homelessness. And they were like, why didn't you come here and tell us you had trouble? She was like, I assumed I was banned.
Yeah, it was like self-inflicted. Like she was like,
There's
I have
a lot
to
of
step
that.
away.
Like people just casting themselves out.
Same with the teenager, right?
Yes.
Like it's a misunderstanding.
Although she did
essentially.
stab her dad.
And
Yeah.
Jin as well. Like he thinks he killed him.
Any father should be prepared to be stabbed by his daughter a little bit.
It's a combination of pride and shame. Yes.
Yes.
That I think speaks to like, right. Yes. A very complicated social situation of how people end up in these positions.
Right. Hitman attempts to kill the Yakuza.
Takes Mayuki hostage.
Yes.
Correct. And the baby.
And the baby.
Because Mayuki has the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And brings them home to a fairly chill situation.
Yeah.
I would say.
It was really sweet.
Yes. To his wife, who is breastfeeding 2 babies at the same time.
Yes.
Yes.
And Miyuki's response is like, wow, big boobs. I remember that.
They form this like interesting kind of nice emotional relationship, even though they can't speak the same language.
They understand like English father.
Yes.
They get, and they're showing pictures of each other.
Right.
Mayuki finally opens up. It's really sweet.
It is, but it's like it's a real showcase for like animation performance, this is a movie that's very invested in like animation acting.
Especially the faces.
Yeah. And Satoshi Kon was always working with a far more limited budget than a lot of his major contemporaries. And it's really interesting to see because his movies look beautiful, but you see that money deployed very strategically. Where you will have like long panning shots over backgrounds where nothing is animated.
Yeah.
Where he's just really letting you take in the graphic of this was beautifully rendered, but also I'm getting away with 10 seconds without animation. I'm saving a little money.
The frame is like static.
Right. The frame
Everyone's
is static.
moving in it, but nothing else.
Or like only one character is moving, or only one part of a character is moving. So that the moments you have where characters become incredibly animated are so effective. But so often he's getting away with, I shouldn't say getting away with, but it's like very, very expressive kind of keyframing of, as you said, David, like huge evocative expressions. Yeah.
And he uses it so, like my favorite scene in the whole movie is when Jin finds the older man and brings him basically to die in peace. And just like how subtly it's animated.
Yes.
And just his eyes staying open and the fans starting to turn again because he's no longer dead for 6 seconds.
It's really
the funniest. Yeah.
I think especially in 2D animation, it is very hard to convey stillness without feeling like nothing is happening.
Yeah.
Because
like a painting.
Right. Because then at that moment you're looking at just a static drawing.
It's the screen pause.
There is inherently no, God, why am I forgetting the term? But there's like this term in animation of basically if you want a character standing still, you basically try to manually copy the same frame 3 times because whatever microscopic differences will exist in you tracing the same image.
Give it the slightest bit of like.
It just gives it a little
movement,
judder. It gives it like a little pulse. But he can get away with like a character actually standing absolutely completely still and not making you worried like, oh, is my DVD skipping?
Yes. Right. Is something freezing. Yeah, for sure.
The stuff with the old man
cracks me up.
It's a very interesting, this movie has an interesting sense of humor because that's a little gallows humor. It's
really
playful.
upsetting. And he's like,
but it is upsetting. It's
like,
an interesting balance.
I wanted to die in a huge house and drunk. And he's like, I've done half of those things. And it's like, geez, that's really upsetting. But then him just like dying with a smile on his face is like, I can't help but be somewhat, I don't know. It makes me feel okay.
It has empathy for the character.
It has a lot of empathy, and it's not, all these jokes are not at the expense of the characters. Like, I was really excited to see, and it's like the same thing, like you guys talked about on your Big Trouble in Little China episode, that like there is some apprehension rewatching, being like, is this going to age terribly?
Yeah.
And like with a character like Hannah, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh shit. Like I do not want to see this person made fun of.
I mean, basically the opening joke in the movie, the first thing anyone says to her is like a joke about her genitals.
Yeah.
Right? Like it starts on this note, not a way where you're like, okay, movie, you're on probation.
Right,
but like
Crocodile Dundee 2's territory.
It does not, it feels like a character in the movie is saying something offensive rather than the movie making a cheap joke at her expense.
The movie is pretty clear that she feels comfortable.
But that's the thing. Like in that moment defines it when her response is like, I know who I am.
Yeah, and the characters are a little messed up. Like where Jin is like not in any way a perfect person. And when he's making these jokes, you could see when he feels bad and you could see the remorse as opposed to the movie making fun of.
It's a movie about characters that most films would ignore or put at the absolute margins. And if they include them, so often the tendency is either to set them up purely to be the butt of the joke, right? These are characters that can be comedic archetypes for easy punchlines for whoever the hero of the movie is, right? To like score shots off of. Or they become like too saintly, especially in a Christmas movie where it's like the magical hobo with the kind smile and the infinite depth of humanity, right? And this movie is like doing both without ever letting them get to the side of extreme in either direction. You know, like it is building humor around them and uncomfortable humor at times, but it's never making jokes at their expense. And it's also really interrogating their humanity, but it's also not sanctifying them.
They're flawed characters for sure. Like you said, they're almost frustrating in that as you learn more about their lives, you're like, well, this is fixable. Like, why didn't you do this or that? But it's sort of like
Miyuki, go home.
Right. That's part of the point, right?
Yeah.
It's oftentimes
We'll get to the
like,
hospital
this is not
scene, which for me is like the emotional peak of the movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. But like, this is not, people's situations are not going to make total sense to you, right? And it's not just going to be something of like, oh yeah, you know, they ran out of money because they did this bad thing and that's why they ended up like this.
But also, anyone who ends up in this type of situation, it's an incredibly complicated series of events that leads them there. And I remember as like a child growing up in New York City, where you see unhoused people all the time, being confused of like, well, why isn't there a family member who brings this person in? And in all those cases, there's like a complicated backstory where it's like, well, they lost their family, or there was a fight, or there was a fight that they perceived in their mind. You know, I mean, all these things that so often you're like, how could the chain of events get so bad that someone ends up in this situation? It's a very complicated path.
Which is good.
But like well, it's not good.
It's good that it happens to them, and I'm happy for them. No, it's good.
Let's clarify
for the sake of the movie. But that's why I'd be scared about a remake or a live action remake, just because I feel like the characters would be too angelic. They would be too good.
Yeah.
And also I think they'd shy away from any of the things that push at the buttons a little much.
But Nick Nolte.
But Nick Nolte as Miyuki would be great.
Yeah. Or as Jin, or as all three.
Or oh, Eddie Murphy style.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
No.
And the baby. Yeah.
This is David.
I'm playing a trans woman.
Nick! You can't do that.
I'm a little baby. Wah, wah, wah. Bring me back to my mommy. Here's a key. You're gonna think it's one mommy, but it's the other. Gaga goo goo.
Okay, so we learn about Miyuki's situation as well, right? That she stabbed her father, who is kind of a jerk.
Yes.
A sort of controlling figure.
Stole the cat. Or didn't.
It's this, the cat went missing and she thinks he got rid of it.
Yes.
But she is wrong.
She is.
And she should be punished.
The cat feels like perhaps an extension of a dynamic.
Exactly. That's the exact same thing where you're like, that's not the full story. Right. And it's like, it's fine. It can be a million versions of whatever the full, but like, yeah, you just more understand like there's a busted dynamic here and it came to a head.
Yeah.
Right.
Hana was a performer at this club, physically attacked an audience member who insulted her from the crowd.
Yeah.
As she should, but then like was basically ran off in the shame of I'm never going to be allowed back in there. Charges are going to be pressed against me, whatever. And her partner, who she lived with, died. That scene where she goes back to the club and says that he died, and the bartender says like very quietly, AIDS, which is a thing you don't expect to see in animated films.
Yeah,
no, that's true. Yeah,
and then she sort of just says like, no, he like slipped on a bar of soap in a bathtub, like with this note of like, it's so ridiculous that it was something that meaningless.
And then there are like, there are these weird interludes where suddenly it's like, why is Jin taking care of this old man?
Yeah.
Who's like on the street, and you're like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is part of the story, this kind of fairy tale of Tokyo story.
Well, do you guys, this was something I was actually curious because it's something, and I'm going to break out the blank check knowledge, but like when you talked about Hotel Transylvania.
Great.
Great. I really love how you guys discuss that things are not happening by chance, that like when the guy comes to the hotel, it is because Dracula has set the town on fire.
Right.
It is very causal. So I was curious to know if you guys are okay with a lot of the kind of happenings that, like
it's totally fine.
Yeah,
but it's
I'm
good
okay with
in
it.
animation.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm okay with it too. But I was just, yeah.
I think because this is basically structured as like a picaresque journey, right? And in a way, it's like 3. You have an overriding task. There is a goal that unifies the 3 of them of we have to solve where to bring the baby to. And anything else that happens at that point isn't truly by chance because they are continuing
On that path.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's like these are the interferences. But yes, they keep on kind of splitting up and then reconvening in different portions. And the Jin thing you can view as like, what is this weird interlude that the movie is going off into? But it's also him basically coming face to face with like a ghost of Christmas future.
His own future, his own potential future.
Right. Like here's this guy who's like so self-castigating about like, I fucked it up. My family hates me. I can never go back. I'm a criminal.
Well, he lies about it.
Yes.
Which I love that. Like, yeah, I forgot on the rewatch. I was like, oh, wait, no, isn't she alive at the end?
Yes.
But yeah, he just lies for the sake of empathy.
And just it's an easier story to him.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Right. Like, no, this is why. Like, and that's, you know.
Well, it's like they're dead to me because I assume I'm dead to them because I brought shame to them. Like he's tying himself into such knots. And here he is seeing this guy who's like, this is probably me in 10 to 15 years. And when I'm in this position, does anyone sit by my side as I'm dying? I have to do this. He would never be able to express that ever in his life, but it's clearly what is compelling him.
And like some bad teens show up.
Some sneaky boys.
Some SBs.
Yeah.
True. Like they are the lack of empathy that they're usually going to be facing.
Also want to mention the angel that comes to save him. Cracked me up. Where she's like, yeah, do you want to come to heaven or call a hospital, call an ambulance? And he's like, ambulance.
He gives Jin the bag, the elderly man, before he dies.
Right.
But also when the kids come and beat him up and they take the bag, right? They beat up his corpse as well.
Yeah.
Which is such a brutal moment, but it doesn't feel like shocking for effect.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's just like a deeply sad thing
you're
of
right.
like,
There's
this
nothing
man
sad.
doesn't even get respect in death.
And even that one of them is on the phone while it's
Like
happening.
it's an aside.
Passive, it's like a, yes.
Oh, we're
It's
just
so
cleaning up.
dismissive.
Yeah.
So the next thing is Hana's old club, right?
Mhm.
Like Angel Tower.
Yeah.
Where, yes, the story there is that Hana had like lost it at a rude customer years ago. And that was, like you said, why she just fled.
Which, look, if she had existed in the time of TikTok, she would have gotten famous off of that. I mean, these days, people, all they want is to own a heckler.
All they want to do is like throw a Poland Spring bottle at someone's head while the camera is rolling.
Would have been the queen of TikTok.
Queen of TikTok. Yeah, we would have ruled together.
Yeah.
They call her. What's happening next? Come on. What else is
Well, they
going
find,
on?
well, while Jin is in the older man's
Yeah,
like,
he gets separated
tent,
from them. Right.
he sees the building and it gives him, oh, I know where her house is.
Yes. Right, because he recognizes
He
from the
recognizes
photo, from the
two-
background of
yeah,
the photo.
And he's like, this
Yes.
is where we have to go.
Right, they basically all 3 reconvene at this point. They've all had their sort of separate,
With some
Yeah.
flashbacks,
Hana
with some
is
filling
a
in.
taxi cab, really funny sequence.
Yes.
Just shouting and is in the window.
Yeah, I
Very
love that
funny.
she's just basically like an Auntie Mame character. Yeah.
But the house has been torn down.
Mhm.
And so they basically just have to figure out what happened to this person. And I guess that's when they find out that the mother of the baby,
Mhm.
right? That the mother of the baby's husband is a gambling alcoholic. And so Jin responds to this.
It's just so funny that all of the women of the town
Just
could like one
Starts with
after
2, and
another
then it's
keeps
like
Yeah.
9.
inviting. Yeah, exactly.
They're no longer even talking about them. They're just gossiping about other things.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember what happened before we're at the hospital. Like, what else am I forgetting? Let me see. Let me scrub through this movie.
Well, from there they go. They are looking in the house. They find stuff in the rubble.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
right.
but what leads them to the hospital?
It's the Hana like collapses. They have to go to the hospital.
They go to the hospital
Right,
because
Oh,
of her.
Hana collapses,
Yes, of
yeah.
course.
And that's
Yes.
where Jin finds his estranged daughter,
Yes.
who's working as a nurse.
Yes.
Also named Kyoko.
Yeah.
And they've still got the baby, but Han like flips out at this sort of Hana flips out at this like revelation that his backstory is something of a lie.
And sort of says, like, your daughter shouldn't ever forgive you. Like, totally castigates him
Pretty rude.
in front of her in what is, like, I would argue, the sequence of the most expressive, full, fluid animation in the entire movie.
Mhm.
Like, there's more kind of, like, classical cartoon performance as she gets more and more wound up in her telling him off. And then he sort of like runs away in self-disgust. And Mayuki has the conversation where she's like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, why did...
Yeah, like basically it's like, isn't that a little harsh? Like,
It was a little harsh.
And she relays this story of this like legend she loved of the blue demon and the red demon. And basically that like the blue demon has to work up the ire of the red demon in order to get him to express the things he cannot. That like there is the extroverted and the introverted. And sometimes in order to get the introvert to be able to actually come to terms with their own emotions, you have to like punish them.
Yeah, she had to be the bad guy.
Yeah, you know what I kept thinking about? And I've been thinking about this a lot lately for some random reason. Catfish.
Sure.
Which is now a verb, right? Because of the documentary and the series. And it's like, oh, to catfish someone is to present a fake version of yourself online and trick them into some
My
kind
name
of...
is Guy Handsome, and I love you, and I live at 123 Fake Lane.
Are you single, guy? You sound kind of appealing. Ben, I might have found an encouraging lead here. Hands on 123 Lane. That's a Tony address.
Whoa, nice part of town. No, what about Catfish?
The reason that movie is called Catfish, spoilers for Catfish, a thing that we now all know how it ends because of it becoming shorthand, is the woman's father, or I'm sorry, the woman's husband, who's been creating this fake online persona that like drew the filmmakers in, gives this speech about how in like shipping fish, that if cod are placed into barrels with other cod and they are inactive in a contained space while they're like brought over on a boat, they die.
Right. You
that
need some
cod
catfish
needs
in there.
stimulation. So you put a catfish in there to like make them fight. Like they need the irritation and the aggression in their life. Otherwise they just like collapse. And that's basically what Hana's arguing she is, right? Like she's like, everyone thinks I'm dramatic and overblown and histrionic and what have you. But it's like, no, I'm the person who pulls emotions out of people that they cannot express themselves. I make people angry in order to get the thing out of their system.
Right. Like that's the
whole
I'm
blue demon, red
this
demon
burden
story.
on.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Like I accept the way society views me, not only just because of like my identity, but also because of my behavior. But I feel like I am playing a role in like the great human drama.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. If I can't perform on the stage, I can at least sort of perform here.
Yeah. And like in the way that as a performer, you know, especially if you're like doing a sort of cabaret act like her, it's like you get on the stage and through song convey the emotions that otherwise cannot be said. She's like, there's a straight line for me. There's nothing difficult about me saying what I'm thinking and feeling, but maybe I have to pull that out of other people.
Let me tell you a little about the animation that's going on here. So a big influence on this movie apparently is a guy called Shinji Otsuka,
Okay.
a Ghibli legend
Mm-hmm.
who had worked a little bit on Millennium Actress, but is much more present on this movie.
Okay.
Would key animate about 1/10 of the movie. Cone is basically like the movie wouldn't work without this person participating. Like, and his key influence was he would let characters drift off model and demote to the point of distortion.
Yeah.
And people started copying what he was doing, the other animators.
Hospital Scene's a perfect example of that.
So you've got, that's why I thought of it. You've got this straightforwardly realistic story. So it's kind of like in the character animation, there's kind of more squashing and stretching.
Mhm.
And there's more like weird, like you said, like sort of unreal expression in people's faces, which is cool. And apparently all the animators started getting really wacky and expressive and surreal with that because they, you know, the colors are muted, like you said, Reese. Like the detail is a lot less, you know, hyper around.
Yeah, the setting is really realistic.
Right.
Like that's never super out there.
No, you have very realistic sort of like painted backdrops.
Yeah, even the rooms that they're in, they're so messy. Like they have the one guy who's, I think he's a hoarder at the end where he's just living in squalor.
Here's another great quote from Satoshi Kon. Garbage is an important subject in Tokyo Godfathers. It must be depicted beautifully. It seems that beautiful garbage is a bit of a contradiction, but the garbage must make an impression. This movie has tons of garbage in it.
I would say mission
garbage.
accomplished.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And like the whole kind of like beautiful garbage thing of like the snow falling, right? Like the setting is kind of tranquil and nice at times, but then they're in these conditions like of squalor. So it's just interesting. That's all. Okay.
I agree.
Okay. So hospital, they kind of storm out of the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Hana and Miyuki
Go to the bridge.
go to the bridge. Miyuki's still got the baby. And they find Sachiko, the supposed mother of this baby, spoiler alert, not really the mother, about to jump off a bridge. She says the husband got rid of the baby.
She was told the baby
her.
died.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So they're like, great, problem solved. Whoop, here's the baby. See you later.
Not before Hana slaps her.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Well, Hana's a bit of a live wire.
But this is also Hana feeling her desire to be a mother is so deep that she has such an interesting combination of contempt for anyone who would be derelict in that duty and responsibility, but also this innate belief of like, if you are a parent to a child, you must feel something. There must be a thing in you that can be conjured up to care.
It's also her experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she was abandoned.
Yes.
And she's, I think, trying to allow for this baby to have some redemption in the way that she didn't get to have.
She says that she mostly grew up in the foster system,
Yeah, she
right?
said she didn't know her own mother.
Yes. Right. But she has a weird, for that being her reality, she has a belief in, if you actually confront a parent to their face with the reality of their child, there's no way they could reject
They can't
them.
run away, yeah.
Yes.
They find out that Sachiko is not the mother of the baby by finding her husband.
I think Jin
Jin
watching.
finds, that's
yeah,
right,
Jin
yes.
was watching TV, sees that there's an APB out for the baby, goes to the guy's house, trips
Yes.
over him. Yeah.
Yes. Right. And
This is the garbage apartment.
This is a garbage apartment.
Yeah.
And so it has to be figured out. The baby has to be retrieved.
Mhm.
And Sachiko is basically on top of a building. I'm pretty stressed out at this point. I will
Yes.
say I don't like babies in peril anymore.
Sure.
Oh, and this was also the craziest it gets.
This is
her
the craziest-
hijacking the truck, him becoming, which is I really like it. Just him becoming the cyclist, which he lied about. And now he finally gets, which is very sweet.
And Reese, you need to understand, just because I know you only met David today for the first time, he doesn't like babies in peril now because, of course, he is a father of a daughter.
Yeah.
This guy used to love babies in peril. It used to be his
Love it.
favorite thing. I go, are you a Michael Jackson fan? He go, only of the time he held the kid out the window. I don't like any of his music.
That is crazy.
That happened? Yeah, it's one of the craziest things.
Obviously, when it happened, people were like, this is completely crazy. Like, it's not like people reacted that with like, oh, MJ always up to something. Like,
No, but-
people reacted appropriately at the time. But in retrospect, you're like, forgot about that.
In
About all the other
international
shit.
news.
I thought that
Everywhere
was-
in the world.
I thought that was fake as a kid. I just thought that was a thing that was
it
parodied.
seems
because I was
almost
like,
fake.
It
in, like,
feels like
elementary
a scary
school.
movie scene.
Yeah, I thought that was like, oh, ha ha ha. And
Yes.
then only later it was like, oh, these pictures were real.
real.
Right.
Yeah.
Real. And with the cloth over the
blanket
head.
over-
Right.
yeah.
Everything
Blanket.
about like the baby's name blanket. There's a blanket over the head. He's being held out a window. And you're right. Like no one was like cool, normal.
No, people were.
But the reporting was
outraged.
like,
It was
but
a
they also were like,
scandal.
you won't believe what MJ's done this time.
Well, there was a little bit of that to my
Right.
L coverage, I suppose. Of
People
Michael
were up in
Jackson, which
arms
is
about it, but
unfortunate.
also
Yes.
like we could have all just collectively stopped, taken a moment, deep breath, and gone like, this is actually a big problem.
That's what we should have done. We should have
Yes.
all done that.
Yes.
That's what people should do. Stop and collectively take a moment.
Calmer heads will prevail.
I am anxious that the baby is
Makes
in
me very
peril.
uncomfortable. Sure.
As I am, I find it just right in anything I watch these days. I mean, Shogun, Jesus, I'm loving Shogun.
Other babies in peril.
Mother of Blankies.
Shout out to
Worked on
Mother.
it, obviously. Emily, I'm so
loving it
excited.
too.
It's so
fantastic.
good. But it begins with like the first episode, a really terrible thing happens to a baby. And my wife and I were kind of like, we might have to like piece out of this right away. Like it was tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's done casually. It's
Insensitively,
part of the
sure,
story.
sure.
Like, but it's tough.
Yeah.
But in this movie, I kind of was like, I know the baby's going to be fine because there is this kind of magical, like it's Christmas.
There's just enough,
Things are working out. There's weird
just a
kismets.
hair of magical realism. But you're
Yeah.
right. It's in an interesting way where it's
But
mostly
it's sad.
just through.
This woman is
absolutely.
obviously, she's miserable and depressed because she lost a baby and
Mhm.
she kidnapped a baby in response to that. And that's what's prompted all this.
Yeah, it's the second time in
misunderstanding.
10 minutes we're watching this woman attempt suicide.
Yeah.
And like it's similar to their stories in that it's like this tragic misunderstanding, right? Like
Yep.
it's different in every other way, but like,
Mhm.
like, and you get this crazy thing where she jumps, they catch her, she drops the baby, Hana catches the baby.
That's
Hana's
another moment
falling.
of very expressive animation and a sort of complicated camera shot of her sliding down the side of the building.
Right, and then
it goes into almost like hyperkinetic Dragon Ball Z movement.
This wind just kind of slows them down and they're okay. Hana's holding on to the whatever it is, banner thing, and it just kind of like, it's all fine.
Here's another thing I'll say I like about this film. This is like a real baby, especially in the world of animation, where babies do a lot of shit. The baby
cries.
They make babies just a little person. You know what I'm saying?
It's pretty cute when they're little people.
I'm not saying it isn't, but like compared to
like
Ice
if they
Age,
have a day out.
Well, don't get me started. That actually costs a lot of money to the city.
What happens in Ice Age? There is a baby, obviously. Same. It's three Godfathers again.
I don't even want to tell you because you'll be watching it 25 times any day now. No, that movie is three prehistoric creatures and a baby, right? And the three of them got a human baby.
Yeah, I guess Jin would be the woolly mammoth.
Fun. Yeah, no.
Jin is Ray Romano.
Yeah.
Right.
Hana is Dennis Leary.
Diego.
I was going to say Hana might be
like
Sid.
No, I think Hana's Dennis Leary because there's more of like a bitter edge. And like Leguizamo is the kid.
Well, Sid's the one that always wants to keep the child.
That's the thing.
And Sid is the one
Sid's the most motherly.
Yeah.
Sid is Leguizamo.
No, Sid is Leguizamo. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Diego is Leary.
Yeah.
Sid is the most motherly, but also the most.
Sid is a sloth.
My friend.
A sloth.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Manny the mammoth.
Also, Sid abandoned by his family.
This is true.
For being too annoying?
I think that, they leave him behind. So I don't want to make that comparison.
Right.
Now.
And then Manny has lost his family, kind of similar to Jin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, I mean, with Jin, it's a... Look, my point is...
Do you have one?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
That movie's got a little kid. He's supposed to be a little baby, right?
There's a little bundle kid. I remember the kid's in a little bundle.
That's what I'm saying. The kid gets out of the bundle. He jumps around.
The kid has agencies.
He's tugging on tusks and shit.
Right.
He's doing little...
Tugging on tusks.
He's tugging on tusks and shit. This movie, the baby's like in a bundle the whole time.
And
it's
just
like,
cries.
This is a very young baby. They don't animate it doing anything beyond the like expressiveness of a real baby, you know?
Yeah.
They don't put the baby into hijinks. It's like the baby is like an object.
You got to feed it and you got to change it, which they do in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is all you have to do with a little baby.
Yeah.
Which is hard, to be clear.
Yes.
But it's, that's really all you do. The baby's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's okay.
Mm-hmm.
They find the real parents.
Mm-hmm.
The real parents want them to be godparents. There's that moment where the authorities are like, but these are like homeless people. And they're like, we don't care. Like, that's fine.
Another great, just
little
added extra thing that I really like is that people are still pissed about them being homeless.
Yeah. I mean, this movie doesn't try to present easy solves for anything.
Yeah. Well, there is the lottery ticket.
It's, I guess, a pretty easy solve.
And then Miyuki does like find her dad. He's like one of the policemen.
Okay, so maybe this movie actually fixes a lot.
There is a bit of a
There's
like
a
fairy
very
tale
neat-
Christmas
yeah.
thing happening at the end here.
I would say it doesn't feel like everything in their lives are resolved though simultaneously. But I guess there are some magic.
But there's hope.
There's hope.
Right, Benny?
Yeah, there's a lot of hope. I was very moved.
This feels like a quietly
lovely.
very Ben film. The kind of film that
because
hits
it's
you.
got a little bit of rough and tumble.
It's underdogs in the city trying to make it
And
work.
they're dirty.
And they're dirty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, but I think I don't want to boil them down to just being dirty.
No, but you love movies about people who society doubts.
Yeah.
Or ignores or disrespects.
For sure.
And especially when those people like show acts of kindness towards each other.
And rise to the occasion and do these big acts of bravery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you cry watching it?
Yeah.
Oh, a little choked up.
What scene do you cry at?
When the wind.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's majestic.
And it's also, it's like a relief. Like, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Thank God. Because it's stressful, that final act,
For sure.
At this point, you're like, the business got to figure it out. We got to figure this out. And the movie's dark enough that you're not entirely sure it's going to work out.
Yeah.
I had the reassurance that I thought it was going to be, the baby was going to be okay.
There's a sense of risk.
Yeah, there's a chance that
right.
one of the three Godfathers does not live.
When you talk about adult animation, the reason that animation is viewed as a medium by and large, or I'm sorry, as a genre, as family film, shorthand, it's because when they're in the rare cases, especially in American animation, that there is quote unquote adult animation, it is usually shit like Sausage Party,
Which is, yeah.
where you're like, well, the whole hook is that this is for grown-ups, and
Raunchy,
wouldn't it be silly for a kid to watch this? Right? Or things are so hyper-violent. To see a movie like this where you're like, oh no, this is animation for grown-ups because it just has
adult themes.
An adult psychology, right? A messy sort of emotional landscape.
Yeah.
It does mean that you don't feel the obvious assurance of like, in fucking Ice Age, everyone's going to turn out okay.
Did they turn out okay?
Yeah, well, they have to survive for like 5 more movies.
What about the meltdown?
Would you believe that, in fact, it is somehow...
But then dinosaurs come into play at some point.
Every movie they present the threat. Like every Ice Age movie ends with like, I think this is the one that finally does us in, and then somehow it's like rolled back in the last 5 minutes of the movie. Ice Age, there's a meltdown, and they're like, oh, thank God we found more ice.
Yeah, but they never... I don't think they've ever brought back the baby.
No, the baby's only in the first one. There's at least a little purity to the baby.
Right, they resolved the baby situation at the end of Ice Age.
That's why I'm wondering if there's a way to frame this to your daughter where she only had, like, it just, there's one Ice Age movie, it's about a baby.
I have total control over what it's, I mean, I say that.
You say that. Oh, my friend.
The arrogance.
You will be
hubris.
hoisted by that petard.
I don't, but like she will still point to things and I'll be like, no, not that. Like, you know
how those streaming apps have like parental control filters
they do,
that like don't show me anything that's rated PG-13 or above. They should also be able to just make like taste filters.
Don't show me shit that's annoying. Like the problem, the HBO Max filter is a little too loose.
Interesting.
That one's kind of just like, yeah, if it's a cartoon, like that's in the kids section. The Disney Plus filter,
you fucking wake up, your daughter's watching the Brack show.
Shorty's watching Shorties. You'll keep referencing it.
You're really into it
keep
these
referencing
days.
The Disney Plus one is like, yeah, Moana's not on the kids one. What are you crazy? You can show that to a kid? And I'm just
She's
like,
got attitude.
I gotta navigate out to my profile to fucking watch Moana. What is the point of this? Anything that's rated PG is not available.
It's
and
only
most
G.
Disney animated movies are rated PG these days. Nothing is rated G anymore.
No. Like what was the last God?
I guess
God
Paw
was
Patrol.
rated G. But Paw Patrol's not Disney.
No.
And I am not letting
there was some stat I read recently of what the last G-rated movie to make $100 million was, and it was interesting. Because it's been a while.
Interesting.
Even the major animation studios rarely release a G movie.
I do believe the Toy Stories are all G.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Is Toy Story 3 G?
Yeah. Like, you know, I know there's no like violence in those
incinerator.
movies. There's an incinerator. There's emotions. I don't know. Whatever. All this is bullshit. Tokyo Godfathers. I'm going to tell you about the release of this film, Griffin, while you're looking up G-rated movies.
You knew what I was doing.
Yes, I know what you're doing. So his last 2 films, as you alluded, Perfect Blue and Millennium Actress, both had long rollouts. They would premiere at like an animated film festival. The next year they would come out in Japan. The year after that, they would come out in America. That's how it worked for both of them.
Sure.
Tokyo Godfathers premiered at an animation festival, Big Apple Anime, in August 2003, was released in Japan in December 2003, and was rushed by Samuel Goldwyn Films and Sony into an awards qualifying run at the end of December in America as well.
Barely after Millennium Actress.
It means that it was competing against Millennium Actress for the Oscar. Neither was nominated. Finding Nemo, Triplets of Belleville, and They Call Him Brother Bear. It did outgross Millennium Actress at the American box office.
Yeah.
129,000 to 37,000.
Oh, wow. I mean,
these films were niche.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
But it got a critic's pick from AO, Tony Scott himself of the New York Times, who called it a neorealist cartoon, a heartfelt urban fable about human decency among the down and out. Ebert liked it, gave it 3 stars. Satoshi Kon says, look, everything I've made has been significant and important to me. I can't say which one is my favorite, but to create Paranoia Agent, which is the next thing he does, Tokyo Godfathers is necessary. For Tokyo Godfathers to be born, there needed to be a Millennium Actress. I don't take my work as separate pieces, but I value how they've evolved. However, Tokyo Godfathers achieved the highest level in terms of picture quality, and in that sense, I like it the most out of the group.
He's talking just purely visual?
So he agrees with you. This is a translated...
Oh, sure.
I don't know, but it does feel like one of those things where he's like, I like everything and I would never say which is best, but Tokyo Godfathers is the best.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Okay.
This is before Paprika came out.
Oh,
when
true.
He's giving this interview.
Because I think Paprika is the nicest looking.
Paprika looks unbelievable.
But much bigger budget, right?
Yes, $100 gazillion. No, I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
Like 10 or whatever.
One
yeah.
too.
Yes. Toy Story 4. All 4 Toy Stories are G. Toy Story 4 is the last G-rated movie.
Wow.
To make over $100 million.
Forky's in it.
I'm aware. Before you made her an honest woman. Yeah, and it was Cars 3 before that. Like all the Pixar movies post Toy Story 4 have also not been G-rated, I believe.
No, because they tend to have some slightly intense thing happen.
Right. They have unsavory things like puberty and jazz music. You fed that one to me on a plate.
That's very good.
Thank you.
Let's play the box office game.
Okay.
January 16th, 2004.
Okay.
Griffin, is what I have. So I'm like, I don't know why this is what the numbers is giving me, but that's what the numbers is giving me.
Okay.
It must have had a minuscule
Yeah.
release before then because it's not even on.
I'm guessing they did the sort of like unadvertised 1 week qualifying run.
Yes. But this is a good weekend for us anyway because I don't think we've ever done it.
Great. Here's a thing I will say. At the beginning of this year, 2004, I'm a freshman in high school. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make it my job to go see every wide release film released this calendar year. And I embarked on this as a challenge to myself at the start of the year. And I think I gave up by mid-February. But it means I may have an astonishingly strong recall of the Dumpuary movies of 2004 because I think I saw most of them.
Okay, well, what's number one at the box office then? Bitch.
Chasing Liberty?
No.
Fuck. Is it in there?
It's number 11.
Chasing Liberty's number 11?
In its second week.
Jesus Christ.
Opened at number 7. So you missed Chasing Liberty in the top 10 by just a week.
Okay, but I did see that in theaters. Number 1 would not be My Baby's Daddy?
That's number 8, also in its second week.
Okay.
You are 1 week off.
Okay, I'm close though.
Number 1 is more of a big comedy with a big movie stars, with 2 big movie stars.
With 2 big movie stars.
And one of your favorite actors in a supporting role.
It's got 2 big movie stars and one of my favorite actors in a supporting role.
I mean, yeah. I don't want to insult the female lead. She's a movie star.
Well, now I'm curious who the...
She maybe isn't as big a movie star as everyone else, but she's big. She's big.
She's maybe not as big.
She's famous for TV as well. And like she had a real movie career, but maybe never quite became someone who could open a movie on her own.
Huh. Oh, It's Along Came Polly.
It's Along Came Polly. I'm talking about Jennifer Aniston. Like she is a movie star.
She is.
She was in movies like Along Came Polly.
Yes.
She was in The Breakup.
But we have discussed this before. It's very interesting.
Those movies made money.
A huge star on TV. Then they tried to position her for Julia Roberts.
She was one of the Friends, which was one of these TV shows. I know you know what Friends is.
I just found out she was in Leprechaun.
That was her first film.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
She has 600 million grossers at the domestic box office. Griffin, what are they?
I think I can do them all. I just want to say, as the lead up to this.
Along Came Polly isn't one of them.
Off of Friends. I know, but it got close. It was high 80s.
Yeah, ended up at 88.
Yeah. One of Philip Seymour Hoffman's best performances.
He's very
in a
fun.
movie that is aggressively okay.
Is that the one where he's playing basketball?
Yes.
I love that.
Rain Man. Rain Dance, I should say. They were like positioning her for Julia Roberts' career, like Picture Perfect and stuff, and it didn't hit. And then she very strategically was like, I will play the second lead, the love interest, to every major A-list comedy star. And she went through them all. So if I'm trying to count the $600 million grossers,
the $600 million grossers.
I'm going to reverse engineer this from her leading man.
Go ahead.
The Breakup.
That's 1. Vince Vaughn.
I'm not going to go in order here.
No, it's fine.
Marley and Me.
Marley and Me, that's 2. Owen Wilson.
A Horrible Bosses 1.
Horrible Bosses 1 is 3. That's, everyone who's in that one.
Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey. Her number 1 grossing film of all time.
Right. She did 4 Bateman movies, I think.
Did she really?
Yeah. Horrible Bosses is not like a Bateman-Aniston vehicle, but I believe she did 4 films with him.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. You have to name the other 200 mil grossers.
Okay.
And Reese, please weigh in.
I was going to say, one of them I definitely know.
What's the one you know?
I'm thinking of Just Go With It.
Just Go With It.
Of course.
103. It snuck over the line.
Sandler, of course.
Yeah.
Who she's worked with several times.
Yes.
They've solved a couple murders.
2, by my count. Okay, so wait.
I said a couple.
So Vaughn, we counted.
Vaughn, Carey, Bateman,
Stiller,
Wilson, Stiller, Sandler.
The other one, she never did a feral.
No,
she never went feral.
Did she do Ryan Reynolds? Was she in one of those?
That's kind of like that's when the moment is changing.
Yeah,
it was like that generation of the sort of what they called the frat pack. They called them All the Jimmy Miller client guys.
They don't seem to have ever worked together. They are part of supposedly Sandra Bullock's inner circle of support, according to the Daily Mail.
Is the sixth one fall into the same category? I'm thinking
it's a comedy. It's a little more of an ensemble. It is with another comedy actor.
Okay,
it's people
he's just
forget
not that
this
into
movie
you.
was a huge hit. Nope.
Does that not
made 93 mil?
Oh.
It didn't make it.
Oh.
People forget this movie.
7 short.
This movie made $150 million. People also forget that Griffin Newman auditioned for it.
I auditioned for this movie. It made $150 million. It's more of an ensemble. And you know that I auditioned for it.
I do. Let me give you a hint. The character you were going to play, on the poster, an arrow points to his head saying virgin.
Weird. Doesn't sound like the kind of part I would audition for.
In 2013?
The movie is called We're the Millers.
We're the
Sudeikis.
Millers.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Sudeikis.
Who never became as much of a movie star, but was following the same pattern of what she was doing.
And he, he made movies that made money.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, he just seemingly kind of pulled himself out of the running and pivoted and went to TV.
But those are
yeah.
her 6. So, is she a movie star? Yes,
Yeah.
certainly.
But in all of the movies we just listed, she is the second build person and the top person's the main draw. And her value add is like, she's really good at like the back and forth with these guys.
Right.
And now she's like, I feel like in Morning Show, it's like, oh, she's actually going to carry the thing. That's why everyone's excited about the Morning Show. The world's most, checking my notes here, normal TV show.
Everything I'm told about that movie.
They're calling it.
So normal. Do you watch the Morning Show?
I do not.
Do you watch a lot of TV?
You're
a movie guy.
I'm a movie. Yeah, I have now just because, it is annoying that things are only like 8 episodes, but it makes it a lot easier to watch. Although
Sure.
I do wish things went on for more than 8 episodes and I did not have to wait 4 years.
I got great news for you. There are 36 seasons of The Simpsons.
Number 2 at
Burning
the box
up Disney
office.
Plus.
We've covered it on this podcast.
We've covered it on this podcast. January, was it a proper 24 release or delayed? Is it Big Fish? There we go.
He figured it out all by
I keep
himself.
waiting to hear the ding, and I'm realizing that's post.
That's a
yeah.
post.
Then we'll be
Yeah.
doing that later.
Yeah. Okay, Big Fish is number 2, which means is Return of the King number 3?
That's right.
Okay.
All I had to say was and you got
No, because I remember it was a squeaker. It was a photo finish between Big Fish's first wide release and Return of the King's 4th or 5th. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, which I believe was last week.
Yes.
Was when Big Fish expanded.
Mhm.
And it
apparently bodied Chasing Liberty and My Baby's Daddy.
It did put those 2 movies to shame.
Sure.
But it's right behind, right ahead of Lord of the Rings right now.
Okay.
Yes. So those are the top 3. Number 4 is new this week, and this is a little more of a movie you dump in January.
It's a little bit more. They're calling it
It's an action film.
It's an action film that is being dumped in January.
Yes, where it belongs.
Tell me about the star of this picture.
Oh. Okay, I'll do my best. He's a person.
Okay, that does narrow it down a little bit.
By all accounts, he exists and is real and is not some sort of AI-generated nobody, which is what he seems like.
That rules out some
I'm
other people.
really sorry to this person if he listens to our podcast, which I'm sure he doesn't,
So
but you never know. He's a New Zealand actor, of course.
Huh.
He...
Oh, it's Torque.
Who's the actor?
Martin Henderson.
Martin Henderson. I feel like best known then for being the guy in the ring, right? Like he's the guy who's like, fuck, this video's fucked up.
I feel like the fact that I got it off of those clues is almost more mean than you providing those as clues.
Kind of mean.
I really hope he
The fact that was all you had to say, and I went, oh.
Because like, of course you say, tell me about the star of Torque. I could talk to you about Ice Cube, who's not the star, but he's on the poster.
Or
He's
Adam
the
Scott
second.
or
Or
whatever.
Adam Scott or Jay Hernandez.
And we
even.
all remember the name Torque, but most people could not tell you who played Torque.
Who's actually the star? Technically, Martin Henderson.
It's the titular role.
That's back when studios truly were too afraid to have a movie have a black person as the lead.
Yes.
They were like, yeah, but can like Martin Henderson just be in it as well, just in case? Like
Ice
we're
Cube,
afraid.
Proven movie star.
Yeah.
Basically 10 years of success is under his
It's
belt.
what Paul Walker is in
Yes.
Fast and Furious.
Yes.
I know that movie was originally going to be, Timothy Olyphant and
For
Robert
sure.
Duvall or whatever
Yeah.
the hell. But
I live my life a quarter mile at a
I want to tune him out. Number 5 at the box office is a huge hit comedy
A huge hit comedy.
Yes.
And it's also an 03 carryover.
Yes.
I'd imagine it's Cheaper by the Dozen.
You imagine, sadly correct.
Well,
You seen Cheaper by the Dozen?
I have.
Too many kids!
That was a movie that had when I was a child, we did not have a TV in the car, like the like the rich kid cars had like TVs in the back.
Yeah.
So we had one that we brought in, and that was the TV movie.
It
was like, no. I'm sorry. It was, those like fold up.
Yes.
DVD,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
So
Portable
like,
DVD player.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yes.
And we would put it in the
I had one of those.
Yes.
Yeah. It was that and Yours, Mine, and Ours. Another Too Many Kids.
For a second, of course. Well, there's Cheaper by the Dozen, Yours, Mine, Ours, and Cheaper by the Dozen too.
It's just like
this feeding frenzy in Hollywood on Too Many Kids.
There's the one
posters where the door is being held.
This is what I'm going to talk about. There's the one poster where it's like Martin is holding the family album, and it's like a Dwayne Reed receipt.
A man has a wallet, and inside it are photos of his family. But what if he had too many family members to fit into your classic?
But that one's kind of a cute poster, and then there's the other poster that you're referring to where he and Bonnie Hunt are holding the door and I'm like, this didn't sneak up on you. It's not like when you were 9 kids in, you were like, oh shit, there's more. Like, you kept having children.
Right. Bonnie Hunt and Steve Martin are reacting to that poster as if the gremlins are breaking down their door. And it's like, maybe you guys should have fucked less if you didn't want these kids breaking down your goddamn door.
I just remember that like Tom Welling is in that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh great, they have so many kids that one of them is a CW star. Like they're dealing with twin toddlers, but they also have
because in the
Tom
second
Welling.
one of their kids is pregnant.
Right.
Yes.
Piper Perabo is pregnant. Yes.
With
right.
Ashton Kutcher's baby?
Oh, Jesus, really?
Yes.
I think Ashton
believe
Kutcher
so.
And Duff, right? The
Hillary
big three
Duff,
are those three.
Exactly.
The big three. Yeah.
And then it's after
Allison
that, it's
Stoner.
like, I don't know,
Allison Stoner,
fucking
good
kid
call.
with a clarinet. Fucking, there's 2 sets of twins.
And
Like,
they
who
drop
cares?
off the first kid storyline, the one who runs away from home.
Right.
He's just barely in the second one.
He has like a mean nickname, right?
Yeah.
They don't call him Booger, but it's something.
No,
like
it's
that.
something implying that he's adopted.
Oh, because he's got different hair color than the rest of them, or some shit.
He has red hair and he has a
Right.
frog. So
Okay.
they're pretty
Right,
mean.
they're like you're adopted. Right?
Yeah.
Well, man, kids are mean, especially when you have that many of them.
And then there's the Eugene Levy family.
Well, that's the
Adding
second
a
one.
lot
That's the
more
second
kids,
one.
yeah.
Right.
How many do they have?
14.
I think they balance them out.
Lautner's one of the kids.
Yes.
Right?
They go tit for tat. Yeah.
It's a movie in which
They call them the dozen.
studio exec, not since James Cameron went up to a whiteboard and wrote the $sign at the end of Aliens.
Cheaper by the Dozen.
Imagine going into the studio and going, I've cracked it. Here's the hook for Cheaper by the Dozen 2. What if Eugene Levy and Carmen Electra had unprotected
The
sex?
studio is just like counting the money out as you speak.
Well, I said, what's the kid look like? Taylor Lautner. We got Shark Boy. And the dollars are
more. Just to underline how much I've changed since becoming a parent when I was a teenager. I think I've mentioned this once on this podcast before. Me and my best friend Ollie at the time in London wrote a parody sequel to Cheaper by the Dozen called Cheaper by the Cousin.
Okay.
In which Steve Martin reveals that he also has 4,000 cousins.
That is funny.
And it
When
is
you say
also-
wrote it, did you complete a script?
we
or-
wrote about 20 to 30 pages of a script.
You know what?
And it is
My hat's off.
Yeah, I've got it somewhere. And it is revealed early on that his kids are dead, quote, by gas. We just say, of course, they've all died, dead by gas.
Cheaper by the Cousin.
Just to show you what a callous little teenager I was. I thought I could make a joke like that.
But see, I'm here like a Fox exec. By the time you get to the word cousin, I'm throwing dollar bills on
We
the
truly
table.
were like, Cheaper by the Cousin, 4,000 cousins. There's a scene where Steve Martin is in charge of the Elgin marbles, which are the famous Greek antiquity. And then the cousins smash them all to pieces.
Funny.
It's really funny.
Gotta dig up the script.
It's somewhere in there. There's definitely a part where Anthony Hopkins plays the president too, because we were really like sick of him.
I had no idea.
Yeah. We were
You've
silly.
definitely never told us this before.
I think I mentioned it like a zillion years ago.
I really think I would have remembered.
Journalist,
Fans, yes.
screenwriter.
Right. Screenwriters at us, tell us, is Little Lord Fauntleroy relatable or a villain?
Yeah.
And have I mentioned this on the podcast in its 9-year history before?
Great. What else is in the top 10?
We've also got, oh my God, a film I've been thinking about so much. I'm sorry to react like that. It's not that surprising.
Okay.
Cold Mountain. Anthony
Yes.
Minghella's Cold Mountain.
Yes.
Jesus. I'm sorry for all these tangents, Reese.
No. This is what I listen for. So this is really fun. And like in the event that they get cut out, I have the exclusive.
So I rewatched, as did you, Gangs of New York for newcomers, where we're going to be on that show whenever that post. I think by now we might have posted.
Yes.
With Lafkus and Beyer, really fun. For 1 second in Gangs of New York, you see sacred harp singers. I don't know if you know what that is. But it's a form of like Irish church music that came to America, where people like sit in a circle and they like turn their voices into like instruments, like it's a crazy choir stuff.
Okay.
It's so cool and it sounds like nothing else. I'll play some for you later, but it's really cool. In Gangs of New York, you see but Cold Mountain has multiple sequences what they're doing because that movie has such cool music. Have you seen Cold Mountain?
Yeah, of course I have.
I don't know. I can't remember.
I haven't seen it since it came out. I saw it in theaters when it came out.
You know, it's got like Jack White in it, and he's playing the banjo or whatever the hell he's doing. And, you know, like it's
and
got
albino Garrett Hedlund.
That's true. And, you know, Sting did like some weird music for it and stuff, but it's got these sacred harps. They do this to keep time it's really cool. Anyway, so I've been listening to a lot of sacred harp music,
and it's got you itching to watch.
I watched that harp, sacred harp, and I saw Cold Mountain twice in theaters, which is crazy.
Yeah,
I think that movie is hugely underrated. I like all his.
I like that.
It got Oscar noms. I know that
it did, but it was seen as the juggernaut, and it didn't get the Best Picture nom.
We didn't even really talk about this in the newcomers episode, but this thing of like, if a year out. People are saying
as
this is number one. It is almost always a death sentence. And I was trying to think what that was for this year. And it almost definitely was Maestro.
It was Maestro.
That was the movie a year ago.
Prediction that,
The Good Shepherd. Like there's so many movies like that where it's
Charlie
like you
Wilson's
do not want to be the
Dream
early.
Girls.
You're naming, these are all true.
If someone in January makes you might say it's a little bit early, but here are my predictions.
Cold Mountain was a big hit. Like
it was. It made $100 million.
I was going to say, what do you think it's going to be for next year? Because I feel like everyone's already saying Dune Part 2.
Yeah, do I want a Doom movie right now?
Well, it could also work really well in that you guess it.
No, here's what I'll say. I think Deadpool is going to walk up onto that stage and go, I bet you didn't think. I hope they don't slap me. I bet.
This is a genuine question.
Where's John Cena's envelope? I don't need as big a one. Like he'll say some shit like that.
What is the front runner?
Don't let Faye Dunaway read my name. Whatever.
Is there some movie
I don't think there is
people are perceiving
Big Picture just did an episode that will be a couple months old at this point where they were sort of looking ahead to the thing. I think a lot of this is because of the strikes, right? The production was stopped down for a while. And when production started up again, the priority was get those fucking blockbusters back up and running ASAP. That I think there's a lot less in the pipeline. And I think there hasn't been stuff that popped out of Sundance or South by Southwest. Yes.
No, that is not like,
yet that feel like they even have a past lives level up.
So that's why maybe Dune Part 2, just because it's like people are into this movie, it's doing well.
But that's not classic fucking Two Towers shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it can't.
I mean, the third one is undeniably happening now. There's no reality in which they don't make a third one.
It's just that Denny might want to make a movie in between, right? Yeah.
I'd like to see him make a movie in between.
I would love that.
Me too. Also, I mean, they need to let them age a little bit.
Sure.
Because you got to get to, it doesn't matter. Dune Part 2. We'll talk about it later.
But anyway, it doesn't feel like an obvious Cold Mountain, right? There's nothing on paper where you're like, oh, these 6 people made a movie together based on this subject material. Invictus, I feel like, was another one of these you were like, oh, can you believe fucking Morgan Freeman is playing Nelson Mandela in a Clint Eastwood movie about beating racism through soccer?
I made my dad take me to the theaters to see that because I heard it was going to be the Best Picture.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like, this can't miss.
No.
One of his worst movies.
But there's nothing on paper that feels like it has the elements of The Post is another one.
The Steve McQueen movie Blitz is the closest, and that's like Steve McQueen doesn't really make like very straight down the middle movies.
For a man who has won Best Picture, it is wild that you are right.
Yeah, like it's like, so it's not like, anyway,
and that film's been a bit of a mystery box for a couple years now.
Cold Mountain. Anyway, I texted a friend of mine who sings, and I said like, sacred, like you must know what this is. And she was like, I do. And she was like, I bet you could find that in New York really easily. And I was like, this is pretty obscure. Googled it immediately. It's like, we're the Sacred Harp Group. We meet every Wednesday at this church in the village. And I'm like, New York has everything, man. They've even got fucking Irish folk church singing. They've got it all.
David's going to start breathing down our neck about finishing records early because he has a fucking...
Go do some Sacred Harp.
Yeah, I bought a whole book of Sacred Harp tickets. Or you're playing?
I'm singing. Yeah, right. No, I bought 10. Right, I bought a 10 pack. I'm sure they would just let me listen. Anyway, you've also got Something's Gotta Give.
Of course.
Covered on this show before.
Anthony.
My Baby's Daddy, as you mentioned,
Cheryl Denay.
is clinging on.
Yeah.
Calendar Girls.
Yeah.
They call them the Calendar Girls, which I feel like was sort of a failed Oscar player.
I like that now it's Trump doing the newscaster thing.
It's evolved so much over 2.
These brave women. You can't do this because of woke. Be a calendar girl anymore. They should. Anyway. Calendar Girls.
Old boobies on the calendar.
I feel like
People
Calendar
bought it.
Girls. It was Disney, might have been Fox Searchlight. I don't
was
know.
Disney.
I think that they were like naked English people. This thing worked with you before,
Full
and the
Monty.
Oscars were like, it needs to be a little different. Okay, it can't literally just be naked English people again.
Yeah.
So it didn't go over. And then number 10, The Last Samurai.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Cruise is The Last Samurai.
Wow.
Teacher's Pet the movie, a movie you like,
One of my favorite
Is-
movies of 2004.
opening at number 13.
Have you
which
seen
is
that
a
movie?
bad-
No.
Reese? It's the completely forgotten Disney film that, yes, was dumped second week of January. First week of January?
Well, it's new this week, so second.
It
or third
opened
week.
outside of the top 10. It
I'm
opened
telling
below.
you, it's opening number 13.
Oh, this is the weekend.
This is it.
Oh, holy shit. Yeah. No, it's depressing, but that film rules.
Also opening this week is the Jafar Pahani film Crimson Gold. An incredible
Oh, wow.
movie.
Reese, they call you the king of TikTok.
They do. Mm-hmm.
They will now.
Yeah, I was gonna
They
say,
only
this is
said
gonna
it
follow
40
me
times.
this is gonna follow me for years to come.
I'm sorry for cursing you.
Reese,
I'll never be the king.
where
now.
is it that you whisper to Gen Z? Where can we? No. Do you have anything you want
Upon
to
which
plug,
mountaintop?
Reese?
No, not really. I don't. It's that's my account name. It came from Man with the Movie Camera.
Okay. Yes. Ziga Veritop movie.
Yeah, I made it not thinking I would ever. I was not on social before it became my job,
Sure.
so I made it kind of like
It was a personal
an
account,
Xbox
but-
gamer tag kind of thing, where it's like you don't think about it, and
Yeah.
now it's there.
Yeah.
For me to reside over, be king of.
We were starting to talk about this, but like this feeling of optimism about film culture coming back, and especially you as someone who's got a little bit of an ear to, I think what some have said, you whisper to Gen Z.
Some would say, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, on that TikTok is where I started.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all things. They just studios will just send me to sets, and directors or filmmakers or producers or even actors that I've worked with will usually just be like, "Hey, do you want to come here?" And then it after weeks of contracts and NDAs, which
Yeah.
I only broke once.
Hey,
Um,
are you allowed to say which NDA you broke, or
It
is there
was
an
Maisel.
NDA about it was Maisel?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Okay.
The original breaking. Right,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
right, right.
Gotcha.
exactly,
Yeah.
the original
Yeah.
breaking. Now I do not break them.
We all grow, don't we?
Exactly.
But
no,
of course, you will be breaking all of them on our Patreon.
I don't Patreon where I go real deep dive.
for $6 a month are no NDAs. No, I was just gonna say I tried to bring everything full circle, and we were talking about this a little bit in the Millennium Actress episode. But I do think it's fascinating to look at David, you were making the joke about Tokyo Godfather barely outgrossing Millennium Actress,
Right.
but they were released by a Sony arm and a DreamWorks arm. They were, not getting wide releases.
No, but everyone's exploring, how
Mhm.
do we maybe
they're
expand
exploring. And there was always
things,
this feeling of there's a real ceiling, Ponyo made, what was it, 15 domestic, and for so long was the highest grossing Ghibli by a good distance.
You nailed it.
Hey now. It is wild,
She grossed at least 3 ham sandwiches in that movie as well.
especially in the last 4 or 5 years, in this moment where it felt like theatrical exhibition was very precipitous and the theaters reopening. Japanese animation has been one of the most reliable bets in theaters.
Yeah.
It is wild how many Japanese films now get released, and it started as Funimation dipping the toe and going it's a new movie that we're gonna put out for only 3 days, and then suddenly it makes $20 million.
Like the Godzilla -1 thing.
Well, now it's commonplace.
I think it was and I know everyone points to Parasite as the one that but I think younger audiences are a lot more forgiving than people think about things not being American, about things having subtitles.
This is why I'm bringing this up to you, because you got their ear, but I do feel like there's an interesting generational shift of outside of very few exceptions, it always felt like, look, 99% of Americans are just never going to get past subtitles. It's a fucking non-starter with them.
Right.
And I think a couple things have happened. I
Art
do
house
think
only. Yeah.
Right. And then you'd have your weird aberrations like Crouching Tiger, and then it was like never replicatable. But I think you do got to give some credit to Netflix, which put a lot of international shows up, and people started watching them, and they had the option to watch them dubbed or subbed. But people suddenly, it's like, oh, I watched this at home. This is a normal TV show.
Yeah, Money Heist, Squid Game, like
Right.
all of those
These
things
are
where
like,
it's like
genre shows. They're fun. They're not artsy.
Mhm.
It makes people more open to the idea of seeing these things in theaters. But I do think there's also like Gen Z grew up with Japanese animation not being this weird kind of hidden relegated thing to them.
no.
And some of that is like the early tale of like these movies, these studios testing the water in the early 2000s, things like Toonami on Cartoon Network and all this stuff. The proliferation of DVDs making these films easier to like get in circulation. But you just like, I feel like anyone under the age of 25 doesn't really give a shit about subtitles. And
No,
in
not
fact,
in the
thinks
slightest.
like it's kind of cool to watch.
They're always watching things with subtitles.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's
You always
that's
have
why
them on.
I
That's what you're
always
about to say.
Yeah, I have them on always.
That's the other part of it.
I'm also not on my phone when I watch.
Sure.
But it's just for me, it is just I'm not staring at them. It is just a crutch if I miss something because if I miss a line, I have to go back and I cannot have anything missed, or I'll just have to rewatch.
I swear to God, I'm not saying this is a joke. This just organically happened, but I genuinely watched online the other day a local news broadcast where they were like, meet the Johnsons, family of 5 who like TV a lot. But would you believe that they like to read the TV? And it was truly like a news piece on like, why are people watching shit with subtitles on? And I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's a chicken and the egg thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And I'm not sure if I could even think about when it happened, but it's
like
just
Americans
how it's been.
watching English language things with closed captioning on has made them more open to watching foreign films with subtitles on because the process isn't different. I don't know. I just find it all very interesting.
Yeah. Also the social aspect where it's
Yeah.
like I grew up just like on like all the film accounts and stuff I followed and everything, just posting like Studio Ghibli, like anything.
And
It's
like
just,
in all
okay.
of these anime shows where it's not like a cult niche thing anymore. They're like popular culture.
They're like bigger than a lot of American.
And it went from
cartoons.
being like, what the fuck is Mugen Train? And why is that making $20 million? To then like a couple times a year we're like, well, obviously number 2 at the box office is going to be this movie that Funimation is releasing for 10 days. And it just happens.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is. It's good.
They call him the king of TikTok.
King of TikTok.
We'll see him again soon on Blank Check, the king of TikTok. He'll be back.
He'll be back. Folks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wrap it
I
up,
hope
Griff.
this
went well.
well, we'll see if it follows
Fantastic.
me. This title it's either gonna be
You're going to
my
be more
downbringing
famous
or-
than ever.
You're going to be, you're, my friend, you thought you were famous before? You thought you were a king?
I can't wait to listen, and all of this is not in it.
Hope I don't. Hope we've not
Episode's 20
torpedoed
minutes
your
long.
career.
Episode's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We're like, Tokyo Godfathers is good.
It's a movie.
I like the characters. Ben's just doing ADR. I'm Griffin, and I liked it too. Like,
I'm Griffin. I know the box office or some shit.
Also, while I'm still on mic, I wanted
Please.
to, I brought as like I genuinely not to weird you guys out. Like have been listening for years, like
Wow.
before I was even working in TV.
when did you get into the show?
I got into it, I think, 2020.
Cool.
And so that was like about when I started working.
I'm glad you didn't get into it when you were a teenager. Just in the name of not making me feel like shit.
He was probably basically a teenager.
No, it's 20.
No, you're 20.
I-
Okay,
yeah.
great.
That's all I care about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no. So I brought stuff because I know that you guys decorate the office.
Yeah, we do.
So
Oh,
yeah,
this
a
is
little
Griffin
bag
Bates.
of goodies.
Yeah.
I don't know who wants to go first.
Griffin.
Yeah, I'm the good.
So for Griffin, I
Yeah.
know you're a toy enthusiast.
Yeah, I am.
So I got you the thing.
They call him the toy
yeah.
enthusiast.
So it's the what's
The
it called?
thing.
Yeah. It is
Ben
McCready.
leapt to his feet.
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
And then
Hell yeah.
yeah.
This
So I figured
rules.
that could
Thank
be
you.
added to the yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you already have it. I figured
I
okay,
don't.
this is good.
I don't. Can I be honest with you? Can I be like incredibly honest with you?
Please.
I have a different McCready,
Mm-hmm.
and I have the dog thing. I don't have this.
Okay,
one.
good. So this is good.
This is
for
valuable.
Ben. It
This is very valuable. It's the
this-
Outpost 31 version.
It is the Hellraiser box.
Oh my god.
Because I
fuck.
just I
That's
know
a
that
really good pick for Ben.
I forgot what
now, Ben, don't solve that.
I forgot what episode where it's like if you guys came across the box, what would you do? And both of you guys said not to solve it. And Ben was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm solving that. So I just figured having it in the office for after I leave would be fun.
Configuration, of course, yes. Maybe hold out for a day or two before you solve the
And
lament.
then for David, this is for you and your daughter. So it's Nightmare Before Christmas.
What? Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, she's actually going to love that.
Yeah, so I figured that would be fun.
Yes, that is very fun. Thank you, sir.
You've not shown it to her yet, right?
No, I
I
haven't.
figured it's a little...
I haven't. I don't know what she might love.
I'll say my friend's daughter is a little older than yours,
Mhm.
and recently just got into Nightmare and is like obsessed with Zero, which I'm predicting your daughter will be as well.
This, of course, is Zero.
Yes.
Yes.
Ghost Dog.
I know. I'm just saying for the audience.
Way of
Zero.
Samurai.
Yeah, Zero,
Yeah.
Jack Skellington.
I think my kid would love it. I don't think they're
Reese,
actually
you are
really
too
good.
kind.
You are too. That's
It
very
is
nice
the
of you.
least
Thank
I can do.
You know what
No,
I'm going
it's
to call
not.
you? Do you
What?
know what I'm going to call you?
The king of gift giving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And now we get some great crinkles directly on Mike. Reese, thank you so much for being
Yeah,
here.
thank you so much for having me.
Overdue.
I hope I did okay.
You did a great job.
You were
great.
Do you guys listen back to the episodes or no?
Sometimes he definitely doesn't.
I used to listen every week. Pandemic kicked that out of me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm curious if I'm gonna listen.
All right, Griffin, wrap this up.
Everyone follow Reese. I know we already plugged it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guy with the movie camera.
And if you're Gen Z, you don't need me to tell you that.
But also, if you're not on TikTok, I know it is less scary than you might think.
You know, TikTok is very easy to use. It's a little too easy. To use,
that's
in my
the
opinion.
It's very easy to use, and also the algorithm fits to you. So if you're into movies, you'll find movie related stuff.
Yes.
So you'll quickly be able to
Right. For me, it's mostly like, airplane crashes and old video games. What is it, Griffin?
No, I was going to say thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank the algorithm if it brought this show to you.
algorithm. Yeah.
Thank you to Marie Berardi, who just walked into the room. You're welcome. Co-producing the show. Thank you to AJ McKeon, Alex Barron for our editing, JJ Burtz for our research, Joe Bowen, Pat Reynolds for our artwork, Lee Montgomery and the Great American Novel for our theme song. You can go to blankcheckpodcast.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including Blank Check special features, their Patreon, where get ready. We're about to fucking take some pot shots at TMNT.
Break NDAs.
An important 2007 movie, but also Paranoia Agent coming up. Tune in next week for
Paprika.
Unfortunately, sadly, tragically, the final film in our Satoshi Kon miniseries.
A dash of it. More than a dash.
We're going to pour it all over the sandwich. And as always,
I got my short shorts on and my high socks. My hair perfectly teased into ringlets. My hat with a ribbon on it. I'm skipping about. It's me, little Lord Fauntleroy.
I'm going to reboot it with Nick Nolte. I'm going to buy the rights to Little Lord Fauntleroy and reboot it with Nick Nolte.
I'm a fancy little boy. I'm chasing a hoop with a stick.